Chapter 552. It should be fine, Linny. Are you done with your stuff? Peng Zhan's voice sounded a little anxious. I just finished. What's wrong, Uncle Chu? Did something happen? Linny asked. Yao Yao seems to have been kidnapped by Zhong Pingliang. Can you come back now? After the incident with the company last time, Peng Zhan was used to looking for Linny whenever there was something he couldn't solve. He had asked Faubert to investigate and follow Zhong Pingliang, but Zhong Pingliang didn't come into contact with Meng Yao. Faubert didn't know where Meng Yao was. Peng Zhan didn't call the police because the situation was too complicated. First, he was worried about his daughter's reputation. Second, there wasn't enough evidence. Zhong Pingliang had Sihua's support, so Peng Zhan couldn't do anything. In a battle of this level, many things were hidden in the dark. Calling the police wouldn't solve the root of the problem. Peng Zhan didn't have the confidence to go against Sihua head-on. The power he represented was too strong. Even if Sihua helped Gubong to destroy his company's profits, Peng Zhan couldn't do anything to him. Kidnapped? Lin Yi was surprised by Zhong Pingliang's boldness. He didn't know that this kid was quite daring. He even dared to kidnap someone? Did you call the police? No, Zhong Fabai's been with Sihua lately, and he's got a strong backer. I don't want to be enemies with him just yet. Peng Zhan didn't hide anything from Lin Yi and told him the truth. Sihua again? Lin Yi frowned. This guy didn't know how to stop. 2 golden class masters were dead, and he was still jumping around. Lin Yi would have killed him if he didn't want to live a peaceful life for a few days. You want me to do it? Lin Yi asked. Yes. You're familiar with Zhong Pingliang and Yao Yao. It's best if you can find Yao Yao quietly, Peng Zhan said. It's complicated. We'll talk face-to-face when you come back. Okay, I'll go back tonight. Lin Yi agreed. When Lin Yi hung up, Xiao Xiao asked, You're going back? I heard you say kidnapped. Who kidnapped him? We'll talk about it when we get back. I'm not too sure myself. Lin Yi waved his hand at Xiao Xiao. I'll be going first. You won't wait for my father to come back? He still wants to see his son-in-law. Xiao Xiao didn't want Lin Yi to leave so soon. This was a good chance. Their relationship would change when they got back to school. Even if it was stronger than before, it wouldn't be as harmonious as it was now. I'll see you later. Lin Yi didn't have time to deal with Xiao Xiao. He still had business to attend to. Although Lin Yi didn't have the obligation to protect Meng Yao, Lin Yi couldn't just sit back and do nothing if something happened to Meng Yao. Even now, Lin Yi still didn't understand why he was sent to Meng Yao's side. What kind of mission was he supposed to carry out? He asked Peng Zhan a few times, but Peng Zhan always gave him vague answers. From the miss, the answer Lin Yi got was that he was a shield. Of course, Lin Yi didn't believe that it was that simple, but he had no other choice. And so, Lin Yi was like a butler. Whether it was Peng Zhan's company, the Miss Studies, or her best friend Shu, Lin Yi did everything he could to help. Not only did he have to be the babysitter for these 2 girls, but he also had to be a bodyguard. He even had to be a thug at school. But as time went on, Lin Yi got used to it. This mission was really complicated. From start to finish, it didn't seem like he had anything to do, but things never stopped. If it weren't for the old man's promise that the reward for this mission would be enough for him to retire, Lin Yi would have questioned it long ago. This miss really didn't let him have peace of mind. If something happened to her, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore it. It wasn't just the problem of Peng Zhan being his employer anymore. Lin Yi really did have some feelings for Meng Yao and Yushu. After all, they lived under the same roof every day. If they were in danger, Lin Yi would definitely help them. Although the auction had ended, there were still some follow-up matters to take care of. The seller and the buyer had to stay behind. Lin Yi said goodbye to Guan Shuimin and Fatty Lai, and took the plane back to Songshan that night. He couldn't book economy class tickets anymore. He could only book first-class tickets, but Faubert booked them directly. After getting off the plane, Lin Yi saw Faubert waiting at the arrival gate. Faubert! Lin Yi walked over quickly. Mr. Lin, it's been a long journey, Faubert said apologetically. I made you come back in such a hurry. It's nothing. Something happened to Yao Yao. Of course I had to come back. Lin Yi didn't expect Faubert to be so polite. In fact, Lin Yi felt a little guilty. After all, Meng Yao was in trouble when he was away. If one were to talk about responsibility, he was also responsible. Although Peng Zhan didn't explicitly say that he would be Meng Yao's bodyguard, he only asked him to be a follower. But this kind of follower was more complicated. Mr. Chu is waiting for you. This way, please. Faubert didn't say anything else. It wasn't appropriate for him to say too much. In the parking lot of the airport, in Faubert's Bentley, Lin Yi saw Peng Zhan. Lin Yi didn't expect Peng Zhan to come to pick him up. It was obvious that it was an emergency. Peng Zhan couldn't wait to meet him. Lin Yi, listen to this recording first. Peng Zhan didn't waste time with small talk. He passed a recording pin to Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded and pressed the play button. Pinliang's voice came from the recording pin. Hello, Uncle Chu. It was a recording Peng Zhan had made during Pinliang's visit. It was the evidence Peng Zhan had left behind, but there was no need for him to go through the trouble of narrating the whole thing. The recording was enough to explain everything. Lin Yi frowned after listening to the recording. Pinliang dared to touch Meng Yao? Uncle Chu, what do you mean? Lin Yi wanted to know Peng Zhan's plan first. Faubert already checked. Yao Yao isn't at Pinliang's house. Pinliang didn't do anything strange today. He went to school, left school, and went home normally. Peng Zhan said, I thought Pinliang would find a chance to meet with Meng Yao, but he didn't. Huh. Then Yao Yao should be fine. Lin Yi sighed and smiled. Chapter 553. Dealing with it calmly from the way Pinliang spoke in the recording, I don't think he did anything to Yao Yao. Lin Yi knew Pinliang better. He was probably testing your attitude, Uncle Chu. Before he left, he emphasized it a few times, asking you to think about it. Yeah, Peng Zhan wasn't an idiot. After Lin Yi's reminder, he immediately understood the crux of the matter. That's right, Pinliang is quite cunning. He was testing my attitude. Yao Yao should be fine, but if I silently agreed to it, Zhong Pinliang would take action. What was done couldn't be undone. If I don't agree and react violently, he will give up his previous plan. But didn't he say before that even if I go to jail, it's nothing? That's just what he said. Lin Yi curled his lips. Even if he knows that bullshit Sihua and some master Bing, do you think Sihua would help him? Ever since Lin Yi killed Sihua's 2 golden class masters, Sihua had quietened down a lot. Lin Yi could imagine how he was feeling right now. He probably hated and feared Lin Yi, but he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi. So, with Lin Yi around, Sihua wouldn't go looking for trouble to help Pinliang. Pinliang was obviously putting on a strong front, making up lies to scare people. Peng Zhan nodded. I guess I was blinded by the situation. It seems like the reason why Pinliang didn't meet with Meng Yao is because I didn't say anything. There's no point in him meeting Meng Yao. That should be it, Lin Yi nodded. In other words, no matter what choice I make, Pinliang will meet with Meng Yao. This way, we can follow him and find Yao Yao, Peng Zhan said. That's right, but Pinliang will always be a problem if we let him live. Why don't we use this opportunity? Lin Yi stopped there. If he didn't do anything to Yao Yao, it'll be hard to deal with him through legal means. Peng Zhan smiled bitterly and shook his head. What if it's an accident? Lin Yi asked calmly. Accident? Peng Zhan, naturally, understood what Lin Yi was implying. There were only 3 people in the car, and they were all trustworthy. Peng Zhan didn't hide anything. It may be an accident, but Zhong Fabai will still blame it on me. With Peng Zhan Industries' current situation, it's not a good time to start a feud. Peng Zhan was worried about Sihua. Fabai would go crazy if Pinliang died, and if he gave Sihua enough benefits, he might be able to force Sihua to avenge him. Peng Zhan, on the other hand, wasn't a weakling, but Sihua was a tyrant in Songshan. It was hard to say what would happen if they were to fight. I understand. Lin Yi sneered and thought of an idea. I will make this accident have nothing to do with us. If it was a normal assassination mission, Lin Yi wouldn't be overcautious. But since Lin Yi had decided to retire here, he wouldn't act rashly. It was easy to kill Pinliang, but it wouldn't be worth it if he brought unnecessary trouble to Peng Zhan. Then I won't say more. Peng Zhan believed that Lin Yi would know what to do. Let's talk about Yao Yao and Shu first. Should we contact Pinliang and follow him to where Yao Yao and Shu are being held? There's no need for that. I have a rough idea of where they are. Lin Yi smiled. Oh, where? Peng Zhan was surprised. He didn't expect Lin Yi to know where Meng Yao and Yushu were being held. Mount Shuangyan. Lin Yi said, Shu sent me a message last night. saying that she and Yao Yao were going to Mount Shuangya. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it seems that they got into trouble there. Then should we go there now? Peng Zhan stood up excitedly when he found out where his daughter was being held. He only realized that he was sitting in the car when his head hit the roof. He turned to Faubert. Go to Mount Shuangyan immediately. Meng Yao and Yushu woke up one after another. Yushu was awakened by Meng Yao's scream. Yushu was still in a daze when she woke up. She rubbed her eyes blankly. Yao Yao, what are you screaming for? Did you have a nightmare? It's the middle of the night, and the sky is still dark. I need to sleep a bit more. Shu, wake up, we're not at home. Meng Yao shook Yushu's body in panic, trying to wake her up. Oh? Yushu finally woke up from Meng Yao's shaking. She said blankly, Where is this? Why is it so dark? I can't even see you. I don't know. We were here when I woke up. Meng Yao wasn't that scared with Yushu by her side. I thought we were at home too, but I felt a stone floor under me. We don't have our phones on us, and we've completely lost contact with the outside world. Yushu touched her body, and then touched her empty pockets. It was as Meng Yao said. It was a stone floor, and her phone was gone. But she was braver. Although it was dark, she wasn't afraid. Yao Yao, didn't we follow Zhong Pingliang into a cave? Are we still in the cave? Meng Yao only remembered what happened after Yushu's words. Indeed, they came with Pinliang, but they didn't know anything after that. Could it be that something happened to them? Zhong Pingliang and the others are here too? Meng Yao asked subconsciously. I don't know. I can't see anything. Should we stand up and look for them? Yushu was born brave, so she wasn't afraid. Meng Yao wanted to agree to Yushu's suggestion, but she was a little scared. The unknown in the dark was the scariest thing for Meng Yao. She wanted to know what was in the dark, but she was afraid of encountering something unknown. Then wait for me here, Yao Yao. I'll get up and look. Yushu said it casually, but she was still a girl. It was impossible for her not to be afraid. She was just a little braver. Let's go together then. Meng Yao was more afraid that Yushu would leave, and she'd be alone. That would be even scarier. Chapter 554. Intimate talk in the small space of the cave. Apart from a backpack, there were a few plastic boxes of unknown contents. It was too dark, and Yushu didn't take a closer look. But one thing was for sure, there was no one else here other than the two of them. At this moment, the two of them realized that they might have been set up by Zhong Pingliang. Otherwise, why were there only the two of them here and not Zhong Pingliang and Gao Xiaofu? Yao Yao sis, it must be that bastard Zhong Pingliang who locked us here. Yushu was furious. I was wondering why he lured us here. He wanted to lock us up. Shu, it's all my fault. I trusted Zhong Pingliang too easily. Meng Yao bit her lips, knowing that she was tricked. It was obvious that Zhong Pingliang had lured her and Shu here on purpose, knocked them out, and locked them up. That so-called seeing someone who looked like her was a lie made up by Zhong Pingliang. Yao Yao sis, how can I blame you? I know that you miss your mother. At this time, it's hard for you to think straight. Yushu didn't blame Yushu. Instead, she smiled and comforted Yushu. Shu, you know everything? Meng Yao looked at Yushu in surprise, but she couldn't see Yushu's expression in the dark. Of course, we're best friends. We grew up together. I know you better than Zhong Pingliang, right? Yushu sighed. I wouldn't have followed you here if I knew this. I could have thought of a way to save you outside. Now, no one knows that we came out with Zhong Pingliang. Meng Yao nodded. Shu, it's good that you don't blame me. I thought you didn't know anything. Oh right. Why do you think Zhong Pingliang locked us up here? With Yushu's understanding, Meng Yao wasn't that afraid anymore. She calmed down. Especially after knowing that there was no one else in the stone room, Meng Yao wasn't nervous anymore. I don't know either. Pinliang shouldn't have the guts to do something like that. Isn't he always so obedient in front of Yao Yao? Yushu couldn't understand why Pinliang would suddenly do something like that. Well, I don't know. It can't be that I kept rejecting him, so he got angry and wanted to kill me, right? Meng Yao was startled. It was a little unbelievable, but it wasn't impossible. Wasn't there a lot of similar news on the internet? Meng Yao had laughed it off at the time, but now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. No way. Then wouldn't I be in trouble too? Yushu said weakly. Yao Yao, I haven't lived long enough yet. Yushu didn't look scared at all, but her tone was a little funny, making Meng Yao chuckle out loud. Who's tired of living? Hey, Sister Yao Yao, do you think we're going to die here? I don't have a boyfriend yet. It's such a waste. My best years have just started. Yushu said with a sad face. You're still thinking about these things in a situation like this? Are you horny? Meng Yao was pissed. Why are you thinking about these things instead of how to escape? Escape? This is a security door. It wouldn't be called a security door if it could be opened so easily. Besides, we don't have tools or keys. How are we supposed to escape? Yushu said with a smile. We're going to die anyway. Yao Yao, let's talk for a while? Meng Yao was in a rush to escape, but after hearing Yushu's words, she felt that it made sense. If a security door could be opened so easily, it wouldn't be called a security door at all. Thinking about it was a waste of energy. She could only settle down. But she was a little annoyed at Yushu's thoughtlessness. You can still laugh at a time like this? Should I cry if I don't laugh? Even if I'm going to die, I can't die from depression. Yushu didn't care at all. Yao Yao, let's talk? Meng Yao was startled, but after hearing Yushu's words, she felt a lot better. Yushu was right. Even if they were going to die, they couldn't die from depression, right? They might as well wait for death happily. Besides, they might not die from it. Okay, then what do you want to talk about? Meng Yao asked. Let's talk from the bottom of our hearts? Yushu held Meng Yao's hand. Yao Yao, we haven't talked from the bottom of our hearts for a long time. In the past, we didn't have any secrets between us. What do you mean no secrets? Didn't I get tricked by you to tell you everything? Meng Yao was angry when Yushu mentioned this. Her best friend looked dumb, but in fact, she was very smart. She often tricked her out of her heart, but Yushu didn't. Hee hee, we're going to die anyway. It's fine to talk now. Yushu laughed dryly. Yao Yao, what do you think of Shield Bro? Lin Yi? Why? Do you like him? Meng Yao asked. Yao Yao, we're going to die, and you're still like this? What's the point? I know you like Shield Bro too, right? Yushu blinked her eyes, but remembered that Meng Yao couldn't see. She wasted her eyes. Too? You like him too? Meng Yao caught on to Yushu's mistake. If you like him, then I have to like him. I'm a small wife for the rest of my life anyway. Yushu said matter-of-factly. I don't know if I like him or not. Meng Yao sighed. This was the first time she seriously discussed Lin Yi with Yushu. Because I don't know what it means to like someone. Oh, I don't know either. I just think that Shield Bro is a good guy, not as boring as other guys. Yushu continued to lead Meng Yao. Yeah, it's just that sometimes, I think he's annoying, but sometimes I'm worried about him. Meng Yao wasn't sure if she was talking to Yushu or just herself. That guy's so annoying. He still wants to go to Tang Yun when he has us two beauties at home. Hee hee, Yao Yao, are you jealous? Yushu asked. I don't know, but I don't feel comfortable seeing him with Tang Yun. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, then do you like him? Yushu asked. Chapter 555. Am I going to die? Nope, I think Yao Yao sis is the best. Yushu waved her fist. Don't worry, Yao Yao sis. I'll help you win back Shield Bro's heart. You're going to die soon. What's there to win back? Meng Yao smiled. Shu, are you regretting that you didn't do something with Lin Yi? It's too late even if you die now, right? Nope, there'll be chances in the future anyway. Ugh. Yushu suddenly realized that she had let the cat out of the bag and quickly shut her mouth. Shu, what are you talking about? Meng Yao was very smart. She could tell that something was wrong with Yushu. Are you hiding something from me? Hee hee. Actually, before I came, I sent Shield Bro a message telling him that we're at Mount Shuangya. If he finds out that we're missing, he'll definitely come back to save us. Yushu saw that Meng Yao had seen through her, so she couldn't hide it anymore. She stuck her tongue out and revealed her trump card. You stupid Shu. Why didn't you say so earlier? You made me worry. You scared me to death. Meng Yao was so angry that she jumped up and grabbed Yushu's neck. I'll strangle you. You knew that we could get out, but you pretended to be dead and told me so much. What do you mean? If I didn't say that, Yao Yao sis wouldn't have told me that you like Shield bro. Yushu smiled mischievously. Only a ghost would like him. Meng Yao was furious. I was just lying to you. I knew that Lin Yi would definitely come to save us. I said that to trick you into admitting that you like Lin Yi. Oh, Yao Yao sis, you're angry now. Yushu waved her hands and ran away. Using the darkness, Meng Yao couldn't find her. Come, catch me. You can't catch me. I'll tear your mouth apart. Although Meng Yao couldn't see, she could follow the sound to chase after Yushu. The two started playing hide and seek in the dark. After a while, both of them were tired, and Yushu surrendered. Yao Yao, I'll stop, I give up. I like Shield bro, alright? Let me go. Heh, you admit it, right? Meng Yao said proudly. I'll tell Linny what you said when we get out of here. So what? I've already confessed, lol. Yushu said nonchalantly. Meng Yao didn't really have a choice. Yushu had confessed to Linny already, and there was no point in saying anything else. The two had been messing around for a long time, and they hadn't eaten anything for almost 5 hours. Yushu's stomach was growling. Yao Yao, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I want to eat, bear with it. Didn't you text Linny? He'll probably save us after he receives it. Meng Yao said. Oh, Yushu nodded, feeling wronged. But I'm so hungry and thirsty. Who told you to be so crazy? Meng Yao was hungry and thirsty as well, but she had to bear with it. If she said the same thing, the two of them would starve to death. That's right, Yao Yao sis. What was that bag we found just now? Could it be something delicious? Yushu asked suddenly. Maybe, but it might be poison left behind by Pinliang. If we eat it, we'll be committing suicide. Meng Yao didn't think that the bag was food, but she couldn't understand why Pinliang would leave food behind after locking them up. It wasn't like he wanted her and Yushu to survive, because there was food and no water. It was fine if a person didn't eat, but if they didn't drink water, they'd die faster. So, Meng Yao guessed that there might be poison in the bag, and Pinliang left it behind on purpose so that they would commit suicide. This was also Pinliang's mistake. He thought too simply and didn't consider the problem of water. He thought that Meng Yao and the others could survive as long as there was food. Oh, then I won't eat. Yushu was shocked and quickly gave up on the idea. But I still want to drink water and eat. All right, Shu, let's sleep for a while. You won't be hungry or thirsty if you sleep. Meng Yao was also hungry and thirsty, but she had to act like an older sister. She comforted Yushu. Didn't you say that Lin Yi would definitely come to save us? Oh? Okay then. Yushu closed her eyes. Meng Yao sighed softly. It must be night now, because there was no light from the peephole of the door. Meng Yao remembered clearly that the door faced the entrance of the cave. If it was daytime outside, they would be able to see the scene outside. Time passed, and the two girls snuggled against each other. Meng Yao could hear Yushu's even breathing, and she knew that Yushu had fallen asleep. Meng Yao was tired as well, so she fell asleep as well. When the two woke up again, there was a sliver of light coming from the peephole. It was daytime outside the cave. Of course, the two of them were not awakened by this weak light. Instead, they were awakened by a parched throat. They hadn't drunk a drop of water for more than 10 hours, and both of them were extremely thirsty. Yushu didn't feel hungry anymore. She just felt thirsty and wanted to drink water. Yao Yao, I'm thirsty. I really want to drink water. Yushu said with a hoarse voice, struggling to speak. Shu, be a good girl. Just bear with it. Meng Yao patted Yushu's back and said firmly, Lin Yi will definitely come to save us. Oh, are you sure? Yushu didn't have much confidence now. She thought that Lin Yi would come soon, but it had been a night and Lin Yi wasn't here yet. She didn't know what time it was, but it must be the next day. If he doesn't come, I'll fire him. Meng Yao comforted. Yushu wanted to say that if he didn't come, how could she fire him? But in her heart, she hoped that Lin Yi would come. He was her last hope, and she didn't want her hope to be destroyed. Yao Yao, am I going to die? Why do I feel so weak? I just woke up and I want to sleep again? Yushu struggled to hold Meng Yao's hand. No, you're just too hungry. That's why you don't have any energy. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, then I'll sleep a bit more. Yushu closed her eyes, but she couldn't fall asleep. Her stomach was growling. and her throat felt like smoke was coming out. Chapter 556. Chapter 556, Brave Yushu, Yao sis. What's the first thing you want to do when you get out? Yushu couldn't fall asleep and started talking again. I don't know, but I know that if you talk, you'll get thirstier. Mingyao reminded. You better shut your mouth. Oh, Yao sis, my lips are cracked. Do you have lipstick? Yushu was still talking. No, Mingyao said. I told you not to talk. Why didn't you listen? Only then did Yushu shut her mouth. The two of them went asleep, got hungry, and woke up. The jet lag was messy as well, and when they opened their eyes again, the light from the peephole was gone. It was night already. Yao sis, I'm really going to die. Do you think Shield Bro didn't get the message? Yushu was in despair. No, he definitely can. Mingyao was also panicking, but she still forced herself to be calm. No, I know we're going to die. Yao sis, I can't hold on anymore. Yushu closed her eyes. Shu, be good. Linny will definitely come. Mingyao comforted guiltily. If he comes, ask him to carry my body back. I don't want my body to be exposed in the wild. Yushu murmured. Mingyao was speechless. Shu, don't talk nonsense. If he doesn't mind, he can rub it on my corpse. I'll have a taste of what it's like to be a woman. Yushu was visibly dizzy from starvation, and her words weren't coherent at all. Lin Yi didn't ask Faubert to drive the car to Mount Shuangyan. Instead, he went back to the villa and brought General Weiwu over. Seeing General Weiwu, Pengzhan and Faubert's eyes were filled with admiration. They didn't think of using this method before. Lin Yi was more meticulous. At the foot of Mount Shuangyan, Lin Yi and Faubert got off the car and started walking up the mountain. Even Pengzhan followed. Lin Yi didn't think that Pinliang would lock them up in the resort. If they were in the resort, there was no way they wouldn't call for help. Even if they were tied up and had cotton stuffed in their mouths, the cleaning staff would still barge in. It was too dangerous. As long as Pinliang wasn't an idiot, he wouldn't do something so stupid. And so, Lin Yi shifted his attention to other places, leaving Pengzhan and Faubert to search the resort. Lin Yi, on the other hand, continued up the mountain. Standing at the fork in the mountain, Lin Yi stopped. There were quite a lot of tourists going up the mountain, but there shouldn't be too many people going in the direction of the fork. Although the mountain was a scenic area, it was inevitable that there would be some grass crawlers, grass snakes, and the like. Especially in the summer, no one would go to such a dangerous place for no reason. Lin Yi bent down and looked at the marks on the grass. It should be someone walked by recently, and after careful observation, it shouldn't be just one person. Lin Yi placed General Weiwu on the ground. General Weiwu had been scared quite a bit along the way. It didn't know why Lin Yi was carrying it. Was he going to kill it? It wanted to run, but it couldn't outrun Lin Yi. It could only tremble and wait for what was about to happen. But now, as soon as Lin Yi placed it on the ground, it could smell Mengyao's scent. From its perspective, Lin Yi was still very afraid of Mengyao. As long as it found Mengyao and asked for her protection, then Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything to it. And so, without Lin Yi doing anything, General Weiwu started searching for Mengyao's scent. It went all the way to the entrance of the cave, in front of the anti-theft door, but General Weiwu still couldn't find Mengyao. He was at his wit's end. But General Weiwu didn't recognize the anti-theft door, but Lin Yi did. The moment he saw the anti-theft door, he immediately knew that this must be the place where Mengyao and Yushu were imprisoned. And Lin Yi's hearing was very good. The moment he entered the cave, he heard Yushu's mumbling, and he almost fell to the ground. Lin Yi's head was full of black lines. Yushu's idea was really something. He didn't have any perverted hobbies. Running to her corpse to have sex? Lin Yi coughed dryly and knocked on the anti-theft door. Yao, Shu. Oh, Yao sis, I'm really going to die. I'm hallucinating. I think I heard Shield Bro's voice, Yushu said in a daze. Lin Yi? Is that you? Although Mengyao was hungry and thirsty, her mind was very clear. She immediately shouted when she heard Lin Yi's voice. She was like a person who saw the light in the dark. She suddenly felt relaxed and excited. Shu, your Shield Bro is here to save you. Ugh. Yao sis, you're lying. I'm hallucinating, Yushu said and suddenly sat up. Really? I'm not hallucinating? Linny looked at the anti-theft door. There was no one else around, and he didn't care about revealing his strength anymore. He raised his leg and kicked the anti-theft door, and Linny held back a lot of strength. He was afraid that the door would be sent flying and hurt the two girls. Yushu finally woke up from her stupor when she heard the loud bang. "Shield bro? It's me." Linny kicked a few more times, and the anti-theft door was completely destroyed. He walked into the cave. "Are you guys okay?" "Wah." Meng Yao cried tears of joy. She didn't know how she got through this. Although she was scared, she knew that if she gave up, Yushu wouldn't be able to hold on anymore. So she gritted her teeth and held on. When Linny came, she finally couldn't hold it anymore and vented her feelings. "I'm sorry, I'm late." Linny held Meng Yao's hand and gently patted her back. "Don't cry. Let's go home now." Suddenly, Yushu grabbed Lin Yi's arm and bit down on it. What are you doing?" Linny stared at Yushu in pain. "Oh, it's not a dream. I thought it was a dream." "Shield bro, you really came." Yushu's listlessness disappeared, and her excited face regained some color. "I'm not here. I'm scared of having sex with corpses." Yushu's bite hurt, and Lin Yi was pissed off. Why didn't this girl bite herself? Was she using him as a guinea pig? He couldn't help but expose her. Yushu froze, and her eyes widened. "You heard it? Only if I'm deaf." Lin Yi was speechless. Meng Yao, on the other hand, started laughing out loud. This Shu really knew how to make a fool out of herself. Lin Yi even heard what she said. How embarrassing. Chapter 557. Help you take revenge. Meng Yao and Yushu remembered that Pengzhan and Faubert must be panicking after being away for a whole day. They quickly stood up. Yushu, on the other hand, was feeling a little dizzy the moment she stood up. She'd been very excited just a moment ago. Linny jumped in fright and quickly supported Yushu. "Carry her. Her body isn't as good as mine," Meng Yao said to Lin Yi. "Can you?" Linny saw that Meng Yao was also a little unstable. After all, who wouldn't be able to stand after a whole day without food? "Yeah." Meng Yao nodded. She wasn't standing too stably either, but she was still stronger than Yushu. Let's go together." Lin Yi carried Yushu with both hands and said to Meng Yao, "Together?" Meng Yao's eyes widened. Lin Yi, on the other hand, squatted down and hugged Yushu before stretching out his arms. "You come up too." "You. Can you do it?" Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Usually, it was already very good to carry a person down the mountain. After all, the mountain path wasn't easy to walk on. But Lin Yi wanted to carry too? Wasn't he too strong? He can even kick down the security door. What do you think? Lin Yi wanted to say that it was dangerous to say that he couldn't do it in front of a man, but Meng Yao didn't mean it. Meng Yao was really tired. After a moment of hesitation, she remembered that Lin Yi was strong enough to kick down the security door. She fell on Lin Yi's arms. Lin Yi walked out of the cave with the two misses in his arms. He remembered that he didn't call Pengzhan in a hurry. But now that his arms were occupied, he couldn't make a phone call. However, when he was going down the mountain, he saw Pengzhan and Faubert at the entrance of the resort. The two had just come out of the resort, and it was obvious that they didn't get anything. They looked up and were overjoyed to see Lin Yi carrying two people. "Yao Yao Shu." Pengzhan ran over in a few steps, completely losing his composure as a chairman. At this moment, he was just a father worried about his daughter's safety. "It's okay. Maybe they're too tired. They fell asleep." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the two to fall asleep so quickly, but the smiles on their faces told him that they were sleeping soundly. Meng Yao and Yushu, knowing that they'd been saved, were no longer as worried as before. All they wanted was a good rest. Faubert wanted to help Lin Yi, but he didn't want to wake up Meng Yao and Yushu. He smiled apologetically. Pengzhan, on the other hand, rubbed his hands in excitement. He found his daughter, and it seemed like she wasn't hurt. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sleep so peacefully. When they got on the car at the foot of the mountain, Lin Yi had to put the two down. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, had slept for quite a while. They were just a little tired. They woke up and rubbed their eyes. When Meng Yao saw her father, she couldn't help but jump into Pengzhan's arms. "Dad! Pinliang, that bastard, locked us up. You have to avenge me." "Don't worry, Yao Yao. It's okay. It's okay. Peng Zhan sighed. It was the first time his daughter had suffered so much in her life. Ming Yao had someone to talk to, but Yushu didn't. She looked at Ming Yao, who was in Peng Zhan's arms, and turned to Lin Yi. She jumped into Lin Yi's arms. Shield bro, you have to avenge us. Yushu only wanted comfort. She didn't have any other intentions. She just hugged Lin Yi. Lin Yi patted Yushu's shoulder. Even without Yushu, Lin Yi wouldn't let Pinliang go. It was just that he had to do it in a roundabout way. Since Peng Zhan didn't want to add to the conflict, Lin Yi planned to shift the conflict to someone else. After returning to the villa, Lin Yi comforted Ming Yao and Yushu for a while before going back to his room. He still had to deal with Pinliang. He used his computer to extract a part of the recording and called Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen picked up quickly. Lil bro Lin Yi? Jiang Wen didn't expect Lin Yi to call him on his own. He gave Lin Yi some money, but he wasn't sure if Lin Yi would help him find Ming Yao's information. From Jiang Wen's point of view, Lin Yi wasn't someone easy to get along with. And bro, it's me. Lin Yi said. Do you have time now? Now? What's up? Jiang Wen was drinking with Tai Zhao outside. He didn't know why Lin Yi was calling him. And bro, I didn't disappoint you. After a lot of hard work, I finally found some information about Ming Yao at school. It's about her pursuers. Lin Yi said. Oh, is it about Ming Yao? I have time. Where are you? I'll come pick you up right now and we'll talk face to face. Jiang Wen's interest was piqued immediately upon hearing that it was about Ming Yao. He didn't have anything to do right now. Even if he did, he'd push it off first. I'm at Ming Yao's villa. Come over then. I'll wait for you. Lin Yi said. Okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Jiang Wen said immediately. Ming Yao and Yushu were back to normal by the time he walked out of the room. The two of them were stuffing themselves in the dining room, and it seemed like they were starving. I'll go out for a bit. I'll help you guys get revenge. Lin Yi smiled. The two girls looked really cute now. Okay. Yushu's mouth was full of food. She waved her fist excitedly when she heard Lin Yi's words. Ming Yao didn't say anything. She only looked at Lin Yi. Be careful. Lin Yi wasn't used to the Mrs. Gentleness. He paused for a moment before nodding. Peng Zhan didn't know what Lin Yi was going to do, but Lin Yi promised not to drag Peng Zhan Industries into this. Where are you going? Do you want Faubert to send you? Peng Zhan asked. No need. There's someone here to pick me up. Lin Yi smiled. Lin Yi's words surprised everyone in the living room. There was someone here to pick Lin Yi up? Lin Yi smiled and walked out of the villa. Jiang Wen's car was already there. He got out immediately when he saw Lin Yi. Lin Yi bro, get in. Get in. Chapter 558. Chapter 558. Revenge comes, of course. Lin Yi bro, I know about your hard work. Don't worry, I won't let you do it for nothing. Tell me, what's the matter? Jiang Wen asked impatiently. And bro, listen to this recording first. Lin Yi handed the recording pin to Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen quickly took the recorder and pressed the play button, listening attentively. It wasn't long before his face turned ugly. He started cursing right in front of Lin Yi. Motherfucker, who the fuck is this bastard? I'll kill him if he dares to make me a cuckold. Haha, and bro, don't worry. I've already saved Yao Yao. He didn't get what he wanted. He's just trying to blackmail Uncle Chu. Lin Yi told Jiang Wen his analysis. He had to make Jiang Wen feel at ease. Otherwise, Jiang Wen would think that Ming Yao was a second-hand good. What if he gave up on her? This would give him the confidence to take care of Meng Yao's love rival. Lin Yi bro, you came at the right time. I can't thank you enough. If it weren't for you, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you. Jiang Wen patted Lin Yi's shoulder emotionally. At this moment, he was sure that after Lin Yi accepted his payment last time, he didn't hold any grudges against him anymore. Lin Yi was sincerely helping him. Jiang Wen couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. After all, Lin Yi was only Meng Yao's bodyguard. He had a girlfriend as well. There was no conflict of interest between them. He even gave Lin Yi a huge sum of money. Why wouldn't Lin Yi do his best to help him? Sigh, but in bro, Ming Yao's love rival needs to be taught a lesson. I can't guarantee that I'll be so lucky next time. Lin Yi reminded. If you don't tell me, I'll kill him. How dare he touch Yao Yao? He must be tired of living. Jiang Wen smiled coldly. What's his name? If you tell me, I'll kill him tomorrow. His name is Zhong Pingliang. I have his photo here. I'll send it to you with my phone, Linny said as he sent the photo to Jiang Wen. Linny, my old brother, originally I wanted to invite you to have dinner, but this kind of thing happened. You should also protect Yao Yao in the villa, Jiang Wen said. I need to get ready to teach this Zhong Pingliang a lesson, so I'll be going back first. I'll treat you another day. There's no need for a meal, but as for the expenses, you see if it's, Linny said with a smile. No problem. Jiang Wen was much more satisfied than last time. After all, Linny had really helped him with something this time. The money wasn't wasted. I'll transfer another 1 million to you tomorrow, Jiang Wen said straightforwardly. Huh. Thank you. Then bro, Linny smiled. He didn't reject the offer. 1 million wasn't much to him, but who wouldn't want more money from Jiang Wen? Peng Zhan stayed in the villa for the first time. The next day, Meng Yao and Yu Shu stayed at home to rest. They didn't go to school. In fact, Linny planned to let Jiang Wen deal with Zhong Pingliang first before letting them show themselves. As usual, Pingliang took a taxi to school. He didn't show it on his face, but he was panicking on the inside. Why hadn't Peng Zhan contacted him in 2 days? Did he agree or not? He had to say something at least, right? After getting off the taxi, Pingliang was about to walk into school when 4 bulky men stopped him. One of them asked, You're Zhong Pingliang, right? You. What do you want? Pingliang jumped. He didn't know what they wanted from him, but it was obvious that it wasn't anything good. He wanted to run away subconsciously. However, the 4 of them surrounded him from all sides. He had nowhere to run. The man who asked the question compared the photo in his hand and nodded to the others. Without a word, they grabbed Pingliang and dragged him into a van not far away. Jiang Wen sat in the front passenger seat and watched Pingliang get caught. He said fiercely, How dare he touch Meng Yao? He'll be arrogant if I don't teach him a lesson. I'll cut off your kidney and see if you can still be so cocky. Behind a garbage disposal station in the western suburbs of Songshan, Pingliang was pushed into a basement by 4 bulky men. The basement was filled with the smell of disinfectant, and Pingliang couldn't help but sneeze. Who are you people? What do you want with me? Do you know who my father is? It's Zhong Fabai. Let me go if you know what's good for you, or I'll make you pay, Pingliang yelled, trying to put up a strong front. Fuck. What are you yelling for? Do you want to die? A tattooed man walked over and slapped Pingliang's face. How dare you yell in here? You must be crazy. You. Pingliang was shocked and angry, but he didn't dare to provoke the tattooed man too much. This guy looked like a gangster. Although his father was also a gangster, he was like a tiger that was bullied by dogs. Who knew if these people wanted to kill him or not? Bring him in first and check his body. The tattooed man waved his hand to the 4 bulky men, and they brought Pingliang into a room. The tattooed man turned and walked into another room. Jiang Wen was sitting inside, playing with a sharp scalpel with a dark expression. One bro, do you want to do it yourself? The tattooed man asked respectfully. Yes, I'll do the first cut later. Inject him with the anesthetic that can make him feel but can't move. I want him to remember this lesson. Let's see if he dares to touch my woman again. Jiang Wen said coldly. When bro, he just said his father's name is something like Zhong Fabai. The tattooed man said carefully. Zhong Fabai? What does he do? Jiang Wen asked. He's a gangster in this city. He owns a casino and a hotel. The tattooed man introduced Fabai's background. What the hell is this? Do you even need to mention this kind of person? Jiang Wen lost interest immediately after hearing that it was just a gangster. He waved his hand impatiently and said, Hurry up and do it. Yes. The tattooed man saw that Jiang Wen didn't care about Fabai's background at all, so he didn't say anything else. He turned around and went to make the arrangements. Chapter 559. You better remember this. Unfortunately, he still had his senses and consciousness. He could still see the people in front of him and hear their words. However, he couldn't move or speak. His eyes stared blankly. It took him a lot of effort to even move his eyes. He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't. After a while, Pingliang was pushed onto the operating table. He was terrified. He wanted to scream and resist, but he couldn't. He was conscious. His body wasn't controlled by his brain. When bro, it's ready. You can use the scalpel now, the tattooed man said respectfully to Jiangwen. Jiangwen entered the operating room with the scalpel in his hand. He looked at Pinliang on the operating table. His eyes flashed with hatred. How dare you steal my woman in Songshan? I'll teach you a lesson. You won't know your place if I don't teach you a lesson. How do I do it? Jiangwen walked over and raised the scalpel, ready to start. Pinliang's eyes were filled with fear. He didn't know what the person in front of him was going to do. Did he want to kill him? How did he offend such a powerful person? He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't. He wanted to close his eyes, but he couldn't control his eyelids. When bro, you just need to make a cut here. It's about this long. A doctor wearing a mask explained to Jiangwen. Got it. Jiangwen nodded. From his point of view, it didn't matter if the wound was bigger. It was just a few stitches. As for whether Pinliang was in pain or not, the more the better. The doctor was a cold-blooded killer. He wasn't nervous at all. He wasn't worried that Jiangwen would kill him. After all, there were at least 8 to 10 people who died on the operating table. Fuck. You better remember this. There are some people you can't touch. If you dare touch Mingyao again, I'll kill you. Jiangwen glared at Pinliang. I'll cut off one of your kidneys to teach you a lesson. Next time, I'll cut off your head. Pinliang finally understood that the person in front of him was here to avenge Mingyao. But, since when did Mingyao know someone like this? Was he sent by Pengzhan? Pinliang wanted to shout, "Don't you dare!" However, this was only his fantasy. He couldn't speak at all. Swoosh. Jiangwen ignored Pinliang, not even bothering to listen to his explanation. He used the scalpel and opened up a large wound on Pinliang's body. Pinliang's face twitched in pain, but there was nothing he could do. Don't forget about it. With that, Jiangwen tossed the scalpel to the side and walked out of the surgery room. Mingyao, don't even think about it anymore. With that, Jiangwen threw the scalpel to the side and walked out of the surgery room. He wanted to stab Pinliang a few more times, but he was afraid that he'd damage his kidneys. A kidney could be sold for hundreds of thousands. That was money. The operation without anesthesia was already painful enough. If the kidney was removed without anesthesia, Pinliang would definitely die. After Jiangwen left, the doctor gave Jiangwen anesthetics, and soon, Pinliang lost consciousness. The doctor's movements were swift and precise. He cut off one of Pinliang's kidneys and had the tattooed man dump him at the entrance of Songshan's first hospital before leaving. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want the situation to get out of hand, Jiangwen would have killed Pinliang directly. Fabai received a call from the hospital and heard that his son's kidney was cut off. He was furious and rushed to the hospital. His son was already awake on the bed. Fabai was shocked and angry at the same time. In Songshan, there was someone who dared to do this to his son. Did they want to die? Pinliang saw that his father was here and started bawling. Losing one of his kidneys for no reason was a disaster from the heavens. He knew that a person's health would be affected after losing his kidney. It was hard to say if he could still be a normal man in the future. He felt so wronged. Most importantly, he didn't know who did it. Dad, you have to avenge me. I lost a kidney for no reason. I'm so unlucky. Zhong Pingliang started sobbing. Who did it? Fuck, if I find out, I'll kill his whole family. Fabai was furious. Pinliang was his only son. How could he not be angry? I don't know. They pushed me to the operating table, gave me anesthetics, and cut off my kidney. Pinliang cried. But the person who did the surgery said it was because of Mingyao. He told me to stay away from her. Oh, Mingyao? Fabai was stunned. Could it be Pengzhan? No, even if you were chasing after his daughter, he wouldn't cut off one of your kidneys, right? I think it must be. Even if it wasn't, it must have something to do with him. Pinliang wanted to keep it a secret, but after some hesitation, he decided to tell his father what he'd done earlier. Fabai's face turned ugly. Pinliang was too bold. Wasn't he? He dared to kidnap Mingyao? He even dared to threaten Pengzhan? When Fabai heard that it was Pengzhan who did it, he wanted to take revenge. But after listening to Pinliang's explanation, he fell into silence. After all, he was the one in the wrong. It was reasonable for Pengzhan to take revenge, but this revenge was a little too cruel. It would be fine if it was just a beating and a broken leg, but it was a kidney that was cut off. Although he had made friends with Master Bing these few days, Fabai was no match for Peng Zhan with his own strength. Now, he could only discuss with Zihua and see if he could help him. After all, he was working for Zihua. He couldn't just ignore his son's kidney being cut off, could he? And so, Fabai left Pinliang in the hospital. In order to comfort his son, he told him to focus on the treatment. Losing a kidney was nothing. At least he wouldn't die. Pinliang naturally knew that losing a kidney wouldn't kill him, but he couldn't lose it for nothing. His body wouldn't be as strong as before, and he wouldn't even have the strength to pick up girls. This made Pinliang sad, but there was no point in being sad. Revenge was the most important thing now. Fabai and Zihua were in the honeymoon stage, so when Fabai called to ask for a meeting, Zihua gladly agreed. The location was set at the floating cloud bar. Brozhong, why are you looking for me so early in the morning? Zihua stood up to welcome Fabai when he came to the bar. This was already giving Fabai enough face. Chapter 560. Chapter 560. Trouble at Kong Xiaobo's house. Zihua bro, is Master Bing here? Fabai was relieved to see Zihua's enthusiasm. It seemed like there was still hope for him. Master Bing fought with 3 girls until midnight last night. He hasn't woken up yet, Zihua said casually. Fabai was considered one of his own now, so Zihua didn't hide anything. Hee, Master Bing is really something. We're no match for this kind of combat power. Zhong Fabai gave a thumbs up and complimented without showing any emotion. Of course, who is Master Bing? Zihua smiled faintly. Bro Zhong, do you need something from him? I don't need to trouble Master Bing with my matters. Zihua bro can help me. Fabai flattered. What is it? Tell me. Zihua didn't let Fabai's flattery get to his head. He asked directly. Zihua bro, this time, Peng Zhan's really messing with my head. You have to get justice for me. Fabai sat in front of Zihua and said sternly, I'm Master Bing's man now. As the saying goes, you have to look at the master before you hit the dog. He's gone too far. Fabai's face darkened. Oh? What happened to Peng Zhan? Zihua asked faintly. My son, Pinliang, was only chasing after his daughter, Meng Yao, but Peng Zhan cut off one of his kidneys. Wasn't Peng Zhan being too ruthless? He doesn't even put Zihua bro and Master Bing in his eyes. Fabai said angrily. Wait, what did you say? Cut off one of his kidneys? Zihua froze. If it was something else, it might be possible to say that Peng Zhan did it, but cutting off a kidney? Wasn't that a little too much? Moreover, Fabai's words reminded Zihua of another person. Are you sure it's Peng Zhan? Well, I don't have proof yet, but it's definitely him, Fabai cried. My son said that the person who cut off his kidney warned him to stay away from Peng Zhan, or else he would kill him. This must be Peng Zhan's doing. I see. Zihua nodded. All right, you can go back first. I'll discuss this with Master Bing when he wakes up. Zihua was a tactful man. Naturally, he wouldn't promise Zhong Fabai anything directly, even if Zhong Fabai was one of them now. Zihua bro, you can't just ignore this. Peng Zhan has gone too far this time. Fabai saw that Zihua's attitude was neither warm nor cold, and he didn't express whether he was going to help or not. He wouldn't be a match for Peng Zhan if Zihua didn't do anything. I understand. If this is really Peng Zhan's doing, Master Bing will definitely help you. Zihua said faintly, implying that there was nothing he could do if it had nothing to do with Peng Zhan. Master Bing had been eyeing Peng Zhan's property for a long time. Even without Fabai, Master Bing would still want to deal with Peng Zhan. He might as well do Peng Zhan a favor. All right, I'll go back and wait for Master Bing and Zihua bro's good news. Fabai knew that there was no point in saying anything now. He had to wait for Master Bing to wake up first. Something big had happened in Kong Xiaobo's house recently. Someone had come to cause trouble in their tea house. Kong Xiaobo had wanted to look for Lin Yi, but Lin Yi had gone to Yanjing. He didn't know if he was back yet, and Kong Xiaobo didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. He could only deal with it himself. Kong Fu was an intellectual. He had always been doing his business honestly, and his business was quite good. So even if Kong Xiaobo's family wasn't rich, they were at least moderately well off. However, this tranquility was broken. Ever since a month ago, Kong Xiaobo's tea house opened a leisure club opposite their tea house. House Kang's tea house hadn't been peaceful for a long time. House Kang's tea house had been open for many years, and it was considered an old brand in this area. There were quite a lot of customers, and naturally, the new tea house didn't have as many customers as Kong Xiaobo's tea house. The owner of the tea house, Zhang Baji, got some gangsters to harass House Kang's tea house every day, making it hard for the tea house to continue doing business. Although House Kang's tea house was an old brand, it couldn't handle a group of red-haired, green-haired, and yellow-haired people making noise in the tea house every day. The tea house was an elegant place, and most of the people who went there were couples and businessmen. Who could stand these gangsters playing cards and gambling inside? But unfortunately, although these gangsters were making noise in the tea house, they didn't do anything else. Even if Kung Fu wanted to call the police, he couldn't do anything about it. They were customers, and they came here to drink tea. It was just a pot of tea for a day. As for playing cards, the tea house originally provided free chess and card services. It was just that these people played too intensely, and their voices were a little too loud. To put it bluntly, they were customers. Don't care what they did, they were here to spend money. Therefore, even though Kung Fu knew that he had offended someone, he didn't have any temper. Seeing that the tea house's profits were declining day by day, Kung Fu couldn't do anything about it. The money these gangsters spent on tea wasn't even enough to cover their daily expenses. After a month, Kung Fu really couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to change the situation, but he didn't expect the other party to come looking for him. However, Zhang Baji didn't come alone. The person who came with him was a big shot in Songshan. Kung Fu also heard of this big shot's name. Seeing that he came with Zhang Baji, he knew what happened to his tea house previously. President Kong, we're in the same industry. Although we haven't met before, I've heard a lot about you. Zhang Baji came in and greeted Kung Fu enthusiastically. Come, let me introduce you to a friend. This is President Zhou from TNT Entertainment Company. This is his eldest son, Zhou Ruoguang, from our North District. If President Kong has any trouble in the future, you can look for him. We're iron friends. As he said that, Zhang Baji gave a thumbs up. Kung Fu couldn't help but frown. Isn't this an obvious threat? However, facing these people, Kung Fu didn't have any temper at all. He wasn't a kid anymore. He knew the rules of society. They were powerful, and it was obvious that they were bullying him. What could he do to them? President Zhou, President Zhang, may I know why the two of you are here? Are you here to drink tea, or to compare notes on business? Although Kung Fu was annoyed, he knew that he couldn't afford to offend these people, so he spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Chapter 561. Forced buying and selling. A trace of anger flashed in Mr. Kang's eyes, but he knew very well what would happen to him if he went against these people. At this moment, he could only swallow his anger and smile apologetically. Brother Zhou, don't be angry. I didn't mean that. Bro? What bro? How am I small? You mother f***. Are you looking down on people? Zhou Ruoguang slapped Mr. Kang's face with a pop sound, and 5 red marks appeared on his face directly. Kong Mu heard the commotion and ran out. She was furious when she saw her man getting slapped. Who are you? Why are you causing trouble here? Kung Fu jumped when he saw Kong Mu. He quickly gave her a look. These people were not people he could mess with. He introduced them with a smile. This is Mr. Zhang. This is Mr. Zhou. And this is Brother Zhou. Kung Fu didn't dare call Zhou Ruoguang little bro Zhou anymore. He could only call him Brother Zhou. Although it was infuriating to call someone younger than him and not much older than his son, he couldn't do anything about it. Old Kong, what are you doing? They're here to cause trouble, aren't they? Call the police. I don't believe they're more powerful than the police. Kong Mu panicked when she saw Kung Fu being so submissive. Ha 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 ha. Zhou Tiandi laughed. Call the police? Of course. I'd like to see what the police can do to me. We're customers here to drink tea. You hit people. Kong Mu pointed at Zhou Ruoguang. Hit people? Did you? Did you see that? Old man, did I hit you? Zhou Ruoguang glared at Kung Fu. No. No. Kung Fu knew that these hooligans couldn't do anything to them even if they called the police. They didn't do anything to them. They only slapped them. It wasn't even a security issue. But when the police leave, you'll be in trouble. They'll come and harass you every day. Kong Mu was stunned. She immediately realized that these people in front of her were not ordinary people who came to drink tea. If her man was afraid of them to this extent, they must have a strong background. However, she did not know the identity of these people, so she looked at Kung Fu with some doubts. Kung Fu sighed and walked over, whispering, Mr. Zhang is the owner of the Level 8 tea house across the street. Mr. Zhou is Tiandi Entertainment CEO, and that blonde is Zhou Ruoguang, the leader of the North District's gangsters. We can't afford to mess with him. What? It's them. This time, Kong Mu was shocked. Kong Mu knew about Zhang Baji's dirty tricks, but she didn't expect his backer to be so powerful. Zhang Baji, Zhou Tiandi, and Zhou Ruoguang naturally saw Kong Mu's expression. They knew that Kong Fu had told her about their identities. Zhang Baji said proudly, Boss Kong, I heard that your tea house is about to be sold due to poor management. I'm interested in taking over. Let's have a chat. Sold? Kong Fu froze. He saw Zhang Baji's expression and knew what he was up to. Wasn't this the real-life version of forced buying and selling? Although he felt uncomfortable, Kong Fu knew that his tea house would lose money if he continued to run it like this. He might as well sell it. He nodded. That's what I mean. How much do you want to take over, Mr. Zhang? Well, I don't know how much it is. Zobro, can you estimate it for me? Zhang Baji pretended to not know and looked at Zhou Tiandi. Kong Fu and Kong Mu's hearts went cold. Zhang Baji owned a tea house. Did he know how much it was? Who was he trying to fool? But Zhang Baji's attitude was obviously telling Zhou Tiandi to set the price so that he wouldn't dare to bargain. I think that the retail houses on this street are around 10,000 per square meter. The ones above and below you are around 200 square meters. I'll give you a fixed price. Rounded up, 2 million. Zhou Tiandi said faintly. What? Kong Fu looked at Zhou Tiandi, stunned. The retail houses on this street were indeed 10,000 per square meter, but that was the floor space. His tea house was 200 square meters, and the floor space was close to 300 square meters. That was at least 7 or 8 million, and that was just the price of the house. The decorations, the tea set, and the precious tea leaves were all worth at least 1 million. There was once someone who wanted to buy the tea house and offered 4 million to Kong Fu, but he didn't budge. Zhou Tiandi was willing to sell half of it at once? Haha, Dad, this old thing is scared out of his wits by your price. I told you, you're offering too much. This tea house is only worth 1 million at most. Zhou Ruoguang interrupted. Uncle Zhang runs a tea house. He knows the price. Am I right? If Master Zhou says it's worth, then it's worth it. Zhang Baji nodded and said, but since Zhou Bro has spoken, I can't just give that much. Let's go with 2 million. What do you think, Boss Kong? I have a title certificate for this house, and the floor space is 280 square meters. I'm still renovating. There was no way Kong Fu would sell the tea house for 2 million. He thought that if Zhang Baji offered 4 million yuan, he would sell it. But 2 million yuan was too much of a difference. His family lived in a tea house, and if he sold the tea house, he would have to buy a new house. Even if he didn't buy it in a good location in the city and bought it near Ningshi Road near the slums, it would still cost more than 8,000 per square meter. A house would cost more than 1 million. What was left with 2 million for a house? Would his family still be able to live? Who buys a house and renovates it? Zhou Ruoguang spoke again. Old man, are you stupid? Haven't you heard? The money spent on renovations is the compensation money. Who would buy a second-hand house and let you renovate it? Kong Fu was speechless from Zhou Ruoguang's words, but he didn't dare to refute. After all, Zhou Ruoguang was the leader of the gangsters, and he might start a fight if he wasn't careful. Kong Fu didn't dare to provoke him. I think it's settled. Since you said 280 square meters, then 280 it is. I'll give you 280,000. Zhang Baji's price was actually 4 million, but he asked someone to ask Kong Fu before, and he said that he wouldn't sell it for 4 million. All right, since you won't sell it, then I can only think of a way to make you sell it. Zhang Baji naturally couldn't give Kong Fu 4 million because he had already given Zhou Tiandi 500,000 to settle this matter, and Zhou Tiandi promised to buy the tea house within 3 million. Chapter 562. Chapter 562. My boss is Lin Yizhang Baji, laughed coldly in his heart. What were you doing earlier? You refused to sell when I offered you 4 million, and now you want to sell? But it was too late. The highest I can offer is 8 million. If you don't want to sell, then I can't do anything about it. You can sell it to someone else for 4 million, Zhang Baji said calmly. However, with the way your tea house is doing, I'm afraid no one will buy it. You. Kung Fu knew that Zhang Baji was threatening him. He was furious. He glared at Zhang Baji with bloodshot eyes. This wasn't a matter of cowering or being afraid. It was a matter of his family's future. Kung Fu was stubborn. You can't kill me if I don't want to sell, can you? Hence, he said, don't bully an honest man. I don't want to provoke you, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid. Eh? Old man, did we bully you? Zhou Ruoguang looked at Kung Fu with interest. You don't want to sell, right? We'll come here every day to drink tea. When Kang Xiaobo returned to the tea house after school, he realized that the atmosphere wasn't right the moment he pushed the door open. When he heard that the person in front of him wanted to force his father to sell the tea house, he was furious. What were these people doing? Don't bully my dad. Kang Xiaobo ran over and stood in front of Kung Fu, glaring at Zhou Ruoguang, Zhou Tiandi, and Zhang Baji. Why did this person look familiar? Kang Xiaobo was taken aback. Zhou Ruoguang and Zhou Tiandi thought that Kang Xiaobo looked familiar as well, but they couldn't remember where they had seen him before. Kid, where are you from? There's nothing for you to do here. Go back to your room and do your homework. Zhou Ruoguang mocked. He didn't care about Kang Xiaobo at all. Kang Xiaobo wanted to look for Lin Yi, but Lin Yi had gone out. He had no choice but to step forward. He couldn't let these people bully his father, could he? Kang Xiaobo had been with Lin Yi recently, so he wasn't as cowardly as before. He felt that he was a responsible man. I'm with Boss Lin. Where are you from? Xiaobo knew that Lin Yi was strong, but that was only limited to within the school. He didn't know if he could scare these people. Xiaobo, stop fooling around. Go back to your room and read. When Mr. Kong saw his son coming back from school and confronting these people, he was immediately frightened. He was afraid that his son was young and impetuous and would cause some trouble. Lin? Which boss Lin? Zhou Ruoguang paused. He was just trying to make fun of Kang Xiaobo. He didn't know that Kang Xiaobo would actually come up with a boss Lin. But after thinking about it, he realized that there wasn't a boss Lin among the more powerful people in Songshan. Lin Yi, boss Lin. Kang Xiaobo forced himself to say. He added, he just came to Songshan recently, and he's very powerful. I advise you not to mess with my boss. I'm his #1 follower. Wah! Ruoguang jumped up as if someone stepped on his tail the moment he heard Lin Yi's name. His face turned white as he turned to look at his old man Zhou Tiandi in fear. Lin Yi's name is Ruoguang. Zhou Tiandi was shocked as well. No way. Why was Lin Yi haunting her like a ghost? You can see his shadow everywhere you go. Why did he have a #1 follower? But Zhou Tiandi was a man of his word, and he kept his composure. Was the kid talking nonsense? He quickly took out his phone and called his son, Zhou Ruoguang. If Lin Yi had a follower, Zhou Ruoguang should know. No matter what, he had to make sure that the kid wasn't bluffing. If Lin Yi didn't have a follower, Zhou Tiandi would beat the hell out of Kang Xiaobo. Who told him to scare people? Zhou Tiandi almost lost his mind when he heard Lin Yi's name. Hey, Ruoguang, can I ask you something? Does boss Lin Yi have a follower? Zhou Tiandi didn't dare disrespect Lin Yi, so he called Lin Yi boss. He was afraid that the person in front of him had something to do with Lin Yi. Zhou Ruoguang didn't know why his father was calling him, but he answered anyway. There's one, Kang Xiaobo or something. He used to be a coward, but he got cocky after following Lin Yi. Kong? Zhou Tiandi heard Kung Fu call him Xiaobo. This kid in front of him was, without a doubt, Lin Yi's follower. Zhou Tiandi didn't know how he ended the call, but his face was filled with fear. In that moment, he finally remembered where he'd seen this Kang Xiaobo before. It was at the hospital. It was at the hospital, when he had a conflict with Lin Yi. This Kang Xiaobo was there. Motherf ***. Zhou Tiandi turned around and kicked Zhang Baji in the chest, sending him sprawling on the ground. His head hit the foot of the table, and blood flowed out. But Zhou Tiandi wasn't satisfied yet. He went up and gave Zhang Baji a good kick. On the other side, Zhou Ruoguang also reacted. He went up to Zhang Baji and started to fight. Zhou bro, Master Zhou, why are you hitting me? Zhang Baji was confused. What was wrong with the Zhou father and son? Why did they suddenly go crazy? Hitting you? You almost F***king killed me. Mother F***ker. Didn't you hear me? This guy has something to do with Boss Linny. How dare you do anything to him? Why didn't I kill you? Zhou Tiandi was pissed. Weren't you trying to harm him? Linny was already pissed off by what he'd done recently, and now he came to bully his follower. Wasn't he looking for death? A few days ago, he bullied Tang Yun's brother's girlfriend, and Zhou Tiandi was worried. He didn't know if Linny would come looking for trouble with him. He had just calmed down, and now he provoked Linny's follower. Why was he so lucky? What kind of bad luck did he have to encounter? This sudden turn of events caused the Kong family's people to be dumbfounded. Kong Fu and Kong Mu looked at the furious Zhou father and son in shock. What surprised them even more was that when their son mentioned Lin Yi's name, the Zhou father and son immediately turned around and started beating up Zhang Baji. However, Kong Xiaobo finally understood that these two knew Lin Yi. Not only did they know Lin Yi, but they were also afraid of Lin Yi. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so angry. Zhou Tiandi and Zhou Ruoguang only stopped when Zhang Baji almost fainted. It wasn't because they were afraid of crippling Zhang Baji, but because they were tired. Both of them were big brothers, and fighting was usually done by their subordinates. They rarely fought long battles. The main purpose of their visit today was to scare Mr. Kong. They didn't expect to make a move. Chapter 563. Mystic Class Master. Misunderstanding? Who hit my dad? Kong Xiaobo was furious. He saw the 5 fingers on his father's face the moment he entered the room. Now was the chance for him to vent his anger. I hit him. Bro Kong, it's an accident. I'm sorry. Zhou Ruoguang had no choice but to step forward. Your dad calls me Bro Kong, and you call me Bro Kong too? Your family's seniority is messy. Kong Xiaobo finally found a chance to vent his anger. These people were bullying him. He did not dare to do anything in the past. But now, he was Lin Yi's #1 follower. He was also a powerful person. Uncle Kong, I'm sorry. Please slap me. I didn't mean it. It's an accident. Zhou Ruoguang was afraid of Lin Yi. When he heard that Kong Xiaobo was unhappy, he immediately changed his words. Dad, you should do it. Kong Xiaobo wanted his father to vent his anger. Kong Fu's emotions were complicated. He was surprised that his son's classmate was so powerful. Why were the Zhou's father and son so afraid of him? But no matter what, he was excited and happy. Zhou Ruoguang, who asked him to call him brother just a moment ago, was now his grandson, because he called his son uncle. However, Kong Fu was not a brute. He did not plan to let Zhou Ruoguang off. He said sarcastically, forget it. Brother Zhou said that he didn't mean it. I'm sorry, bro Zhou. I said it wrong again. It's not brother Zhou, it's brother Zhou, huh? Zhou Ruoguang's face turned purple. I'm a bro. Isn't he mocking me? But after a moment's hesitation, he understood that Father Kong was really mocking him. Zhou Ruoguang was not stupid. He kneeled on the ground. Grandpa Kong, I'm not a bro. I'm a grandson in front of you. It was a child. Please don't lower yourself to a child's level. Ruoguang, since Bro Kong and Uncle Kong aren't doing anything, you can slap yourself. Tiandi wanted to calm Kong Xiaobo down a little, so he decided to let him slap himself. Yes. After Zhou Ruoguang heard it, he slapped himself in the face with a clear and loud sound. Brother Kong, Uncle Kong, I'm sorry. I'll definitely give you an explanation. Don't worry, I will definitely make that 8th grade tea house disappear. If Zhou Tiandi wanted to escape, he had to give House Kong an explanation. I was tricked by Zhang Baji. I won't forgive him. Kong Xiaobo didn't want them to stay either, so he sent them away after hearing Tiandi's words. After Tiandi left, Kong Fu and Kong Mu let out a sigh of relief. But they still dragged Kong Xiaobo along, asking him about Lin Yi. Kong Xiaobo didn't know much, so he could only pick out some things that happened in school. After 3 days of recovery, Lin Yi's strength had returned to the late phase of the golden class, but there was still some distance between him and the peak of the late phase of the golden class. In fact, on the second night, Linny had already recovered to the late phase of the golden class, but on the third night, he seemed to have stagnated. Linny was a little depressed. On the fourth night, Linny couldn't help but ask Zhao Yazi, "Zhao Lao, why is the energy in my body not increasing?" "I don't know." Zhao Yazi's voice gave Linny a rude awakening. No way." Linny sweated. "Well, our arts are different, and I haven't practiced the art of dragon mastery before. I can only answer some common questions, but I don't know about your progress and physical condition after practicing the art of dragon mastery," Zhao Yazi said straightforwardly. "All right, I'll practice it myself." Linny knew that Zhao Yazi was telling the truth. It seemed like he had to find his way forward. Lin Yi sat cross-legged in the jade space as usual, silently channeling the chant of the art of dragon mastery. The energy in his body was immediately mobilized, as if it was responding to Lin Yi's art of dragon mastery. The energy flowed into Lin Yi's body at an unbelievable speed. But Lin Yi could feel the energy being absorbed, and he could feel the instant the energy entered his body. But the total amount of energy in his body didn't increase. This was what made Lin Yi depressed and confused. If it was like before, when the energy was saturated to a certain extent, then it wouldn't increase. Because once the energy was saturated, it wouldn't be absorbed anymore. But this time, the situation was different. Although Lin Yi felt that the energy in his body was no longer increasing, the energy outside his body was still surging into his body. Luckily, the energy in the jade space was sufficient, and it didn't cost money. Otherwise, Lin Yi would die of heartache. The light absorption didn't increase, and it was a little depressing. It was like a skinny man eating delicacies every day, but he didn't gain any weight. However, regardless of whether it was depressing or not, since Zhao Yazi didn't know, Lin Yi could only explore and continue to practice. Anyway, he didn't know where the energy was absorbed, and Lin Yi didn't have anything else to do, so he treated it as a way to kill time. Time passed second by second, and the sky was already bright. The night was almost over. Lin Yi was still crazily absorbing energy in the jade space. Just when Lin Yi wanted to stop cultivating and return to reality, he suddenly realized that the energy around him was still surging into his body at the same speed. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat, but he suddenly remembered the first time he entered the jade space. This situation happened once, and that was when the art of dragon mastery broke through the first stage to the second stage. Could it be that I'm going to break through this time? Thinking of this, Lin Yi was surprised and happy, and his heart felt a lot more at ease. After all, Lin Yi knew that this must be the sign of a breakthrough. Boom! Lin Yi's body finally couldn't withstand the huge amount of energy, and it felt like it was going to explode. However, Lin Yi wasn't afraid. An unprecedented feeling of energy surged into Lin Yi's body. This was a very mysterious feeling, and he had never felt it before. In an instant, Lin Yi felt that not only was the energy in his body more abundant than ever, but his movements also seemed to have become much more agile. As for how agile, Lin Yi didn't know, because everything was just a feeling, and he didn't put it into practice. "So you're about to break through, early stage mystic class, not bad." Zhao Yazi's voice rang. "The physique of you humans determines that other than the level of your skills, there's also your own level. I forgot about this, you humans?" "Zhao Lao, are you not a human?" Lin Yi was stunned. Chapter 564. Meeting an old Taoist. Ugh. I don't think so. You look like a spirit. Lin Yi didn't know what kind of existence Zhao Yazi was. Theoretically speaking, he was no longer a human. "Congratulations, you got it right." Zhao Yazi nodded. "I'm a ghost. Are you afraid?" Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't know how much time he spent on the breakthrough, but suddenly, he heard footsteps coming from outside the room. Lin Yi jumped and quickly came back to reality from the jade space. He looked at the alarm clock on the bedside. It was already 6:30 a.m. He usually woke up at this time, but because of the breakthrough today, he was delayed for a while. Lin Yi put on his clothes and pushed the door open. He saw Ming Yao and Yushu talking in the kitchen. Why didn't Shield Bro prepare breakfast today? Yushu rubbed her abdomen with one hand as she searched the table with the other. Did you hide it somewhere? All right, Shu. Lin Yi hasn't woken up yet. He rushed back to save us. He must be tired after the past 2 days. Let's go to school and have breakfast. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, Yao Yao sis, are you worried about Shield Bro? Yushu was startled and looked at Meng Yao curiously. Meng Yao blushed and coughed. Why would I be worried? He's our savior, so we have to treat him better. Oh, okay. Yushu nodded. But the school's breakfast isn't good. We should ask Uncle Chu to get a new manager. That manager is a relative of mine. We can't change him, Meng Yao said. All right, we're graduating soon anyway. We can't eat too many times. Linny stood at the door and smiled. Heh, the miss is still the same. She always cares about people behind their backs, but acts cold on the surface. It's still early. I'll make something for you guys. Linny walked out of the room and went to the kitchen. You're awake? Meng Yao jumped in fright, her eyes wide open. Did he hear what she just said? Meng Yao felt shy and looked at Lin Yi fiercely. Why didn't you make a sound? Are you trying to scare me? Huh. Lin Yi didn't say anything and went to the kitchen. Li Fu had bought a lot of half-finished products ever since he moved into the villa. He opened the freezer to find some frozen dumplings and took one out and put it in a steamer basket. He then took out some daylily and enoki mushrooms from the freezer compartment, washed them clean, and cut them into sections. He then poured in some pepper oil, salt, sugar, and chili, and stirred it all up, turning it into a delicious pickled vegetable. On the other side, the soup dumplings were done as well. Linny quickly picked them up from the pot and placed them on the table with the pickled vegetables. All right, time to eat. Wow, as expected of Shield Bro, you're amazing. Yushu had been starving for a long time, and she reached for the bun. Shu, how can you eat like that? Didn't you wash your hands when you peed? Meng Yao stopped her. I think I didn't pee on my hands. Yushu blushed a little. Think? Meng Yao asked. Just a little bit. I got it on my hands when I was wiping them. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Then why aren't you washing your hands? Meng Yao glared. Then this dumpling. You can have it, Yao Yao. Yushu wanted to give the dumpling to Meng Yao. I don't want it. Meng Yao waved her hands. Shield Bro, this is for you. Yushu put the dumpling on Lin Yi's plate. Lin Yi was speechless. When Yushu came back from washing her hands, Lin Yi was still staring at the dumpling, speechless. It wasn't that Lin Yi disliked Yushu. Quite the contrary, he was excited about it. Lin Yi wasn't a prankster. He couldn't bring himself to do it, and he couldn't bring himself to eat it. Throw it away, Meng Yao said as she looked at Lin Yi. I'm not hungry, you guys eat, Lin Yi said with a sigh. Living with Yushu meant that he had to bring out some courage. Yushu seemed to have realized that something was wrong with Lin Yi. She looked at Lin Yi, and then at the dumpling in front of Lin Yi. She started laughing. Haha, Shield Bro. I used my left hand to hold the dumpling, and I used my right hand to pee. With that, Yushu took the dumpling in front of Lin Yi and took a big bite. It tasted really good. Lin Yi and Meng Yao looked at each other. They could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. After breakfast, Faubert came to pick Meng Yao and Yushu up. Lin Yi, on the other hand, drove his crappy van. Lin Yi was feeling pretty good after breaking through from Golden to Mystic. Mystic Masters were rare in the common world now, weren't they? He wouldn't be afraid of Gonggao the next time he saw him. Physical practitioners were always a little weaker than spiritual practitioners. It wasn't a big difference, but there was still a difference. Lin Yi was feeling happy when he turned his head. He jumped in shock. This was because, in the van that originally had only one person, an old man had sat in the front passenger seat without anyone noticing. The old man was dressed very fashionably, in a t-shirt, jeans, sunglasses, and slicked back hair. Shit. Lin Yi slammed on the brakes. Who are you? How and when did the old man get in the car? Lin Yi didn't notice at all. He was originally happy about his breakthrough to Mystic early phase, but his mood dropped to the bottom. Mo Kongwen. The old man nodded to Lin Yi. Amateus Buddha. Amateus Buddha? Are you a Taoist or a monk? Lin Yi didn't understand. Who was this old man? Was he a master? However, Lin Yi couldn't feel a single bit of energy coming from him. Neither. The old man shook his head. Then why do you call yourself a monk? Lin Yi blinked. My surname is Monk. My name is Mo Kongwen. The old man said. Lin Yi was speechless. The old man was obviously bullshitting. I don't know you. You can get out. Mister, you have too much hostility. It's a bad sign. The old man kept talking. Lenny opened the door to the passenger seat and kicked the old man out. He started the car quickly and stepped on the gas pedal, speeding away. He was an old liar. Lenny was just relieved when he heard someone knocking on the window. He turned his head and saw Mo Kongwen running outside the car. He even knocked on the window. Lenny looked at the speed of the car and his eyes widened. 60 miles per hour. How did this old man keep up? Chapter 565. Chapter 565. Not coming to school. Lenny felt that there was something wrong with this old man. He immediately stepped on the gas pedal. Mo Kongwen gave Lin Yi an unfathomable feeling. Lin Yi didn't want to have anything to do with him. How could someone who could run this fast be an ordinary person? Although Lenny was confident that he could reach this speed after reaching Mystic class, this old man didn't seem to have any strength at all. Lin Yi drove the broken van like a sports car. In the blink of an eye, Mo Kongwen finally disappeared. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. However, good things didn't last long. While Lin Yi was waiting at a red light, a head popped out from the windshield, followed by a hand knocking on the windshield. Lin Yi was thankful that he was mentally strong. If it was someone else, they would have been scared to death by this old man. How did this guy get on top of his car? Did he get on top of his car the moment he sped up? Lin Yi knew that he couldn't avoid it. He had no choice but to stop the car by the roadside and get out. As expected, he saw Mo Kongwen sitting on top of the car leisurely with half a chicken claw in his hand. Old man, what do you want? Do I know you? Lin Yi felt that he was really unlucky. Why did he bump into someone like this? I don't know you, but my master asked me to come and see you. Mo Kongwen jumped down from the car. There's too much evil qi in your body. It's affecting your true qi. If you don't get rid of it in time, you'll be in big trouble. Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi would have turned around and left if he heard this old man say this. However, after seeing this old man's terrifying speed and hearing him mention true qi, Lin Yi felt that this old man was a little strange. You know about true qi? Of course, I also know that you're at the peak of the late phase of the golden class, and you're about to break through. However, there's too much murderous aura around you, and it'll affect the absorption of true qi. If you try to break through by force, you'll be heavily injured at best, and you'll die at worst, Mo Kongwen said slowly. Lin Yi frowned again. How could this old man know about the golden class? But Lin Yi laughed coldly in his heart when he heard him say that he was at the peak of the late phase of the golden class. He thought that Lin Yi had some ability, but it seemed like he heard it from somewhere and used it to fool him. If it was before today, Lin Yi might have believed him, but Lin Yi had just reached the mystic class, so naturally, he wouldn't believe this old man's words. Oh, is that so? Lin Yi asked faintly, but his hand suddenly moved and slapped at the old man. Of course, Lin Yi didn't really want to do anything to this old man, but he wanted to use this opportunity to test the old man's depth. He wanted to see if he really had some ability, or if he was a complete liar. Mo Kongwen saw Lin Yi's attack, but he didn't care and casually blocked it. Then, he gasped and looked at Lin Yi in surprise. You broke through? You're at the early phase of the mystic class? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. It was already amazing that this old man could easily resolve his attack, and he could even say his current level, which meant that this old man wasn't simple. Although Lin Yi didn't use his full strength, it was impossible for him to resolve a mystic class master's attack so easily without the strength of a mystic class master. But what kind of level was this old man at? Lin Yi was really shocked. When Lin Yi was at the golden class, he could clearly see Wu Gonggao's strength. Now that Lin Yi was already a mystic class master, he still couldn't see the old man's strength. Who are you? Thinking of this, Lin Yi looked at the old man vigilantly. That's strange. You actually broke through, and you're still fine. Mo Kongwen looked puzzled and shook his head. Master said that you're in danger. He wouldn't lie to me, right? Old man, what are you talking about? Who's your master? Lin Yi asked. You're fine, goodbye. Mo Kongwen waved his hand, turned around, and ran away. In an instant, he turned into a shadow and disappeared from Lin Yi's sight. Lin Yi was envious of this speed, but he couldn't catch up even if he wanted to. Although he was a little surprised by Mo Kongwen's identity, Lin Yi couldn't do anything about it. Fortunately, Mo Kongwen didn't seem to be hostile towards him, and he really wanted to help him. After all, he was only at the late stage of golden class yesterday, and he only broke through in one night. And this master that Mo Kongwen mentioned actually knew him so well. This made Lin Yi wonder who this master was. However, these questions couldn't be answered for the time being, because Mo Kongwen had disappeared. There was no point for Lin Yi to think about it, so he could only put these strange things to the back of his mind. He returned to the car and drove in the direction of the school. After the first class in the morning, Lin Yi went to grade 12 class 9 to look for Tang Yun. But, unexpectedly, Tang Yun didn't come to school today. Lin Yi then called Tang Yun's phone, but it was still turned off. He wanted to ask Lu Xinwen, but she didn't come to school either. This time, Lin Yi was a little confused. Did the two of them make an appointment? Why didn't they come to school? But no matter what, Lin Yi couldn't find them, so he could only go back to the class. Kang Xiaobo was eager to tell Lin Yi about yesterday's encounter, but Lin Yi went out after class. When he saw Lin Yi coming back, Kang Xiaobo wanted to say something, but the homeroom teacher, Ms. Liu, walked to the podium and said, "Everyone, please be quiet. I have something important to tell you." The class immediately quieted down. Although it was the end of class, no one dared to disobey the homeroom teacher. Let me tell you a piece of unfortunate news. Our classmate, Zhong Pingliang, was kidnapped by unknown people yesterday morning outside the school. One of his kidneys was removed, and he was placed in front of the Songshan First People's Hospital. Ms. Liu just received a call from Zhong Fabai, and it was to ask for leave for Zhong Pingliang. The whole class was in an uproar. This news was too shocking. Such a tragedy happened to Zhong Pingliang. This made the students sympathize with him, but at the same time, they were worried that something like this would happen to them. Although the 12th year students didn't really care about the news, they were aware of the recent cases of homeless people, beggars, and disabled people who were kidnapped and had their kidneys cut off. After all, the rumors spread like wildfire, and it was scary. Chapter 566. Chapter 566. Making a deal. Yao sis, shield bro is so awesome. Zhong Pingliang's kidney was cut off. Yushu didn't expect Lin Yi to be so ruthless as to cut off one of Zhong Pingliang's kidneys. He didn't do it, did he? He wouldn't do such a thing, would he? Meng Yao was confused. After all, it was too cruel. She subconsciously thought that Lin Yi wasn't such a cruel person. Who cares? Zhong Pingliang is done for. He won't harass Yao sis anymore. Yushu didn't mind. From her point of view, Lin Yi should be more aggressive towards his enemies in order to chase them away. Not necessarily. I heard that losing a kidney doesn't kill him, right? Meng Yao frowned. I don't know about that, but I saw on the internet that losing a kidney means you can't have sex. I wonder if it's true? Yushu blinked and smiled evilly. Shu, don't say such dirty words. Meng Yao's face turned red as she lectured. No, I'm just saying the truth. I didn't say it. It's from the internet. Yushu felt wronged. Anyway, don't say it again. Girls who are so dirty won't be able to get married. Meng Yao said sternly. Oh, Yao sis will take care of it. Buy one get one free. People will buy it even if it's dirty. Yushu didn't care. Didn't they say that all men like perverted girls? Meng Yao ignored her. Zhong Pingliang is out of danger now. He's receiving treatment at the hospital. I want to organize a group of students to visit Zhong Pingliang in the hospital. Everyone is free to participate. Those who don't want to go can study in the classroom. Ms. Liu continued. I've already arranged for a bus. It'll be here soon. Those who want to go, prepare to go downstairs with me now. Zhong Pingliang wasn't very popular. He was one of the bad students in the class. Many serious students didn't even spare him a glance. However, Zhong Pingliang had organized a trip to the beach last time. This made him a lot more popular. Everyone was indebted to him. Now that he was in trouble, they couldn't miss him. Therefore, everyone put down the books in their hands and got up to go downstairs. After Fabai left, Sihua pondered for a bit before calling Zhang Wen. Masterin, do you know Fabai? Sihua asked. Zhong Fabai? I don't know you. Mahjong players? Jiang Wen had just gotten rid of his love rival and was celebrating in the hotel. No, he's someone with some power in Songshan. His son's called Zhong Pingliang, Sihua said. Zhong Pingliang? Jiang Wen interrupted Sihua before he could finish. Sihua bro, you're not here to scold me, are you? But I can tell you that I was the one who cut off Pingliang's kidney. Jiang Wen's tone made Sihua pause. It seemed like Pingliang and Jiang Wen had quite a deep grudge. Young Masterin, that's not what I mean. Sihua, naturally, didn't want to offend Jiang Wen. Masterin, but this Zhong Fabai came to me just now, asking for an explanation for his son. Oh, then what do you mean, Sihua bro? Jiang Wen asked faintly. I don't mind, but this Zhong Fabai is working for Master Bing now, so Master Bing has to ask about this. Sihua was in a difficult position. He didn't want to offend Jiang Wen. After all, Housen was backed by the Firewolves, but he had to give an explanation for Fabai's situation. Oh, then let Master Bing come to me. I've been wanting to meet Master Bing anyway, Jiang Wen said nonchalantly. So be it. Even if it was Master Bing's dog, he would still do it. What else could he do? Would Master Bing become enemies with Housen because of this? After all, the Firewolves weren't any weaker than the family of the person behind Master Bing. It was hard to say who would win if they really went against each other. Masterin, you've misunderstood. Sihua was depressed. What was going on? He didn't know what Pinliang did to piss Jiang Wen off, but he had to act as a mediator. But it wasn't easy to mediate. He and Jiang Wen were working well together, and there was no need to ruin their relationship because of Pinliang. He could only ask, Masterin, what kind of grudge do you have with Pinliang? Why did you have to do this? I'm not afraid to tell you. Jiang Wen didn't plan to hide it from Sihua. He told Sihua about the recording he heard from Lin Yi. He kidnapped my childhood sweetheart. How could I let him go? That's true. This Zhong Pinliang has gone too far. Sihua sighed. If what Jiang Wen said was true, then it wouldn't be too much to teach Pinliang a lesson. But now that the conflict had started, it wouldn't be easy to mediate. We need to give Zhong Fabai an explanation. Why don't we just hand Linny over? This kid is obviously trying to provoke you and use you to get rid of Pinliang. He's Meng Yao's bodyguard. Naturally, he wouldn't allow a bomb like Pinliang to be around Meng Yao. I know, but Lin Yi is my informant. It's not good to hand him over like this, is it? Jiang Wen said faintly. I'll give you another 10% of our business. Can you give Zhong Fabai an explanation? Sihua gritted his teeth. This Zhong Fabai really was useful right now. He couldn't ignore him for now. Sihua had no choice but to come up with this plan. Deal. Let Zhong Fabai call me. Jiang Wen laughed in his heart. What did Lin Yi's death have to do with him? He was just messing with Sihua a little. After knowing that Lin Yi was just a bodyguard, Jiang Wen didn't really put Lin Yi in his eyes anymore. He just wanted to use him to get some information about Meng Yao. Not long after, Fabai's call came. He asked directly, Masterin, how did my son offend you? Why did you do this? It seemed that Sihua didn't say much. He only told Fabai that it was Jiang Wen who did it. As for the specifics, he would ask Fabai himself. Fabai, naturally, had heard of Jiang Wen's name. He used to be one of Songshan's 4 young masters, and was now the leader of Housen in Songshan. He had the Firewolves behind him, so Fabai didn't make a fuss. He held back his anger and asked Jiang Wen why he did it. Jiang Wen had already made a deal with Sihua. He wasn't impatient at all. He told him the reason why he did it. What kind of person was Jiang Wen? One of Songshan's 4 young masters. How famous was he? His name was even more famous than Fabai's. Chapter 567. How to deal with him. Fabai didn't have anything else he could do. He didn't dare to offend Jiang Wen. He was someone who was on par with Master Bing, and he had the support of the Firewolves. Who would dare to offend him? Although Fabai dared to call himself one of the big bosses of Songshan City's underworld, he was just a small fry compared to the Firewolf gang. It was Lin Yi who instigated me to do this. Lin Yi is Meng Yao's bodyguard. In the end, Jiang Wen pushed the blame to Lin Yi for Sihua's sake and told Fabai to take revenge on Lin Yi. Fabai now had a way out. He didn't dare to go against Jiang Wen, but against a small bodyguard. Wasn't it a piece of cake? With that in mind, Fabai didn't dwell on Jiang Wen's actions anymore. Masterin, my son's actions are indeed offensive, but can you please return the kidney to my son for the sake of Master Bing and Sihua Bro? Fabai asked. Return the kidney? Jiang Wen smiled coldly. How is that possible? The kidney had been sent abroad to find a recipient. Why would it be returned to him? I'm sorry, Mr. Zhong. I was so angry that I fed your son's kidney to the dogs. I'm really sorry. Jiang Wen naturally wouldn't reveal the kidney company behind him. Fabai froze, but he didn't suspect anything. If it was him, he wouldn't keep his enemy's kidney and put it back, right? Fabai could only accept his bad luck. He wouldn't die from losing a kidney anyway. It was better to find a way to take revenge on Linny. Although he wanted to kill Jiang Wen to vent his anger, he was no match for him. After hanging up the phone, Fabai told his son the truth. His son was the victim, so he had the right to know. On one hand, Fabai wanted to warn his son not to do anything reckless. He needed to think about the consequences before doing anything. He only had one kidney left. That's what happened. Jiang Wen did it, but he said that it was Linny who told him. Fabai said gloomily. Who is Jiang Wen? Yes, I vaguely heard someone call him Young Master One. Pinliang had woken up by now. Losing a kidney was serious, but it wouldn't affect his life. Jiang Wen used to be one of the 4 young masters of Songshan, and Yushu's brother, Chen Yutian, is the leader of the 4 young masters. Fabai sighed. None of them can be underestimated. It's not that I'm belittling myself, but compared to them, I'm still far behind. This time, Yushu's brother didn't cause you any trouble. Otherwise, you might have lost your other kidney. He had to scare his son. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble this kid would cause? Zhong Pingliang's face changed instantly, and he started to feel scared. He remembered what happened to Wu Xiaoqian. Chen Yutian broke both of Wu Xiaosan's legs. Son, we can only endure this hatred for now. Fabai said, we're no match for Jiang Wen. He has the firewolves behind him. Even Master Bing has to give him face. We can only take this lying down. Dad, I understand. I won't use force, but I'll remember this. Pinliang gritted his teeth, and a sinister look flashed across his eyes. The day Naipeo returns from his training will be the day of Jiang Wen's death. Yes, a little impatience will spoil a great plan. We must endure it. Fabai nodded. Right, Dad. You said that Linny gave you the information? How does Linny know Jiang Wen? Why would he do that? Pinliang suddenly remembered what his father said about Linny. This kid is Meng Yao's bodyguard. Fabai said, he's the one who told Jiang Wen about Meng Yao. What? He's Meng Yao's bodyguard? Pinliang froze. How could Lin Yi be Meng Yao's bodyguard? The two of them didn't seem to be on the same wavelength. What was going on? Yes. He's hired by Peng Zhan to protect Meng Yao and Yu Shu in the dark. Fabai nodded. Every debt has a debtor, but this time, we can only target Peng Zhan and Lin Yi. We can't touch Peng Zhan for now, but as for Lin Yi, we can make an example out of him. Fuck. Pinliang almost jumped up from his bed. I was wondering why Yu Shu had Lin Yi's photo in her phone. So he's Meng Yao's bodyguard. Fuck, I didn't realize this. This kid always seems to be ruining things between Meng Yao and me in school. So he's Meng Yao's bodyguard. This kid sure is good at hiding his strength. Son, Meng Yao isn't your type. Don't go after her anymore. Fabai sighed. Jiang Wen isn't someone we can touch right now. We'll focus on Linny first. We'll think about other things when we're stronger. Dad, I understand. At this point, Pinliang understood that it was impossible for him to pursue Meng Yao. At least, it was impossible before Zhang Naipeo appeared out of nowhere. As reluctant as he was, Pinliang gritted his teeth. A man doesn't have to worry about not having a wife. Dad, don't worry. I'll endure it until the day we get rich. Yes, that's right. We'll take revenge for this. But for now, we can only live under Master Bing's protection. Fabai nodded, pleased. Right, Dad, that Linny isn't weak. We need to deal with him. Pinliang was still worried about Lin Yi's skills. After all, Linny had crippled Heibao Bro. Don't worry. We'll need Master Bing's help to deal with him. We won't stand out. Fabai said, there's no rush. We need to gain Master Bing's trust first. I'll do a good job with the slums. Let Master Bing treat me as his right-hand man. That's the only way we can borrow his power. The slums? Pinliang's eyes lit up. Dad, I have an idea. I know how to deal with Lin Yi. Oh, what do you think? Fabai didn't expect his son to have an idea so soon. He was worried that his son wouldn't come up with another idiotic idea, would he? Luckily, he told him about it beforehand. Otherwise, he'd be in trouble again. Son, think before you act. Don't be impulsive. Chapter 568. Chapter 568. Visiting Pinliang's words stunned Fabai. It was said that great emotions could change a person's personality and make an immature child grow up in an instant. However, he had never seen it with his own eyes. Seeing that Pinliang was much more mature and didn't sound like a child anymore, Fabai was very pleased. Son, I'm glad that you think like that. You didn't lose your kidney for nothing. I won't lose it for nothing. I won't let go of Jiangwen and Pengzhan. Pinliang shook his head. But for now, let's pick the weak ones first. Dad, aren't you going to demolish the slums? I know that Lin Yi's girlfriend lives in the slums. When you demolish the place, make things difficult for her family. Of course, it's best if you direct the conflict to Master Bing. Lin Yi will use Jiangwen to deal with me, so we'll use Master Bing to deal with Lin Yi. If anything happens, Lin Yi and Pengzhan's anger will only be directed at Master Bing, not us. N. Fabai listened to his son's suggestion and nodded. That's a good idea, but if they don't stay in the slums, we won't be able to cause conflict, right? We can create conflict with this. For example, forcefully demolish their house. Hee. We can use a bulldozer and let Master Bing do it himself. Pinliang suggested. Okay, I'll try my best. Fabai hated Lin Yi as well. If he could use Master Bing to mess with him, he would be more than happy to do so. As he spoke, his phone rang. It was Pinliang's homeroom teacher. Thus, he quickly picked up the call. Hello, Teacher Liu. Oh, you organized a group of students to visit Pinliang? Thank you so much. Are you at the hospital already? All right, come over. He's in room 418 of the 4th ward. After hanging up, Fabai said to Pinliang, your teacher and classmates are here to visit you. I'm going out for a smoke. Pinliang nodded and felt warmth in his heart. It seemed like his teacher and classmates didn't forget about him. The last time he treated them to a trip, he had repaid the favor. Otherwise, how miserable would it be if not a single classmate came to his hospital? He waited for a while, but the students didn't show up. It would take some time to get to the 4th hospital from the entrance. Pinliang picked up his iPad too and logged into the mobile reading base's website. He started reading a novel called Very Pure, Very Flirtatious Prequel. This was a very YY school novel, and the main character in the novel was very powerful. It was super fun to step on people, and Pinliang had fallen in love with this novel. He kept fantasizing about being the main character in the novel, wondering when he'd be able to step on Lin Yi and Jiangwen like that. However, the more he read, the more depressed he became. Why did he feel like a supporting character in a novel who was stepped on? And so, Pinliang fantasized that this side character could get strong enough to take down the main character. He didn't know how long had passed, but when he was enjoying himself, footsteps came from outside the ward. Then, the ward door was pushed open, and his classmates filed into the ward. Pinliang put his apple aside and raised his head with a smile. Although he saw Yushu and Mingyao walking in front of him, he didn't see anything wrong with their presence. He had learned how to hide himself, and he wasn't surprised that Mingyao and Yushu were rescued safely. If they weren't, Jiangwen wouldn't dare to act recklessly. As for the process of being rescued, Pinliang didn't think about it. It was meaningless. Oh, Liangyi, I heard that you lost a kidney? Yushu exclaimed as soon as she entered the ward. Does that mean that I'm not a man anymore? Pinliang heard Yushu's words and felt embarrassed, but he didn't throw a tantrum. After all, he was the one who kidnapped them first. Yushu was probably here to insult him, but Yushu's expression was innocent, and no one would think that she was insulting him. Ahem, Shu, don't talk nonsense. Of course he's a man. He just doesn't have a kidney. Mingyao wanted to laugh, but she played along with Yushu's act for once. She hated Pinliang very much. Oh, I got it. Then he's not a complete man. Yushu nodded as she realized what Linny meant. Yushu and Meng Yao's conversation made the students laugh. They couldn't help it. Although they sympathized with Pinliang, Yushu's words were too funny. Not a complete man? That was very ambiguous. Pinliang's face turned red, but he couldn't refute it. How could he? He was missing a kidney, so he wasn't a complete man. Yushu was right. Wow, Liangyi, isn't this an iPad too? I saw a news article about a guy selling his kidney to buy an iPad. You're not that guy, are you? Yushu looked at Pinliang, surprised. Pinliang was speechless. He wanted to smash the iPad on the spot. His family was rich, okay? Did he need to sell his kidney? It was cut off by someone, okay? Pinliang wanted to say that Yushu knew how he lost his kidney, but he couldn't say that. But he couldn't say that out loud. Wouldn't that be admitting that he'd kidnapped Meng Yao and Yushu? He couldn't admit it. Admitting it was another matter. Pinliang wasn't an idiot. He could only let Yushu talk nonsense. At that moment, Ms. Liu came in, and Yushu stopped talking nonsense. She stood at the side with a smile, holding Meng Yao's hand. Her eyes were full of curiosity. Shu, let's go. I don't feel good when I see him. Meng Yao frowned. She didn't want to be too close to Pinliang. Okay, let's go. Yushu nodded. I just wanted to see what a person without a kidney looks like. He looks normal. It's nothing, right? Meng Yao shook her head, and the two walked out hand in hand. Linny didn't go forward at all. He only followed Meng Yao and Yushu. Pinliang didn't have much of a relationship with most people. They only came to see him out of sympathy. Now that they were done, they were ready to go back to school. After all, the 12th grade was very tight. Many people had to go back to study. Xiaofu came with everyone, trembling. He didn't know the truth behind Pinliang's kidney being cut off, but he had a feeling that it had something to do with Meng Yao's kidnapping. He was scared that he would be the next target. Chapter 569. The Secret Theft Plan. Fuck. Who else could it be? It's all because of Meng Yao. Pinliang said hatefully. But it wasn't Peng Zhan, it was someone else. Have you heard of the Songshan 4 young masters? Yeah, but wasn't that a long time ago? Didn't they all go their separate ways now? Xiaofu said. It was one of the 4 young masters, Jiangwen. I didn't expect Meng Yao to be his childhood sweetheart. Looks like I've fallen into his hands this time. Pinliang said helplessly. Looks like I can't get back at him anymore. No way. He's that strong? Xiaofu paused. What do we do? What else can we do? Just bear with it for now. Pinliang said faintly. Don't worry, it's over. You won't be dragged into this. Young bro, that's not what I meant. I'm not scared. It's just that this is too cruel. Cutting out a kidney for you. Xiaofu said, but he was afraid. Forget it. We'll just keep quiet from now on. Let's see who dares to go against us after Naipeo leaves the mountain. Pinliang said, gritting his teeth. Yeah. Who do we have to be afraid of when Naipeo comes back? We'll be the new Songshan 3 young masters. We'll kill whoever dares to go against us. Xiaofu was looking forward to Naipeo as well. All right, Xiaofu, focus on your studies. Let's not cause any more trouble for now, Pinliang said. Pinliang didn't mention that he was going to cause trouble for Lin Yi through masturbating. He was afraid that Xiaofu would leak it out. Pinliang was much calmer now. Donghai, Dr. Kang's villa. Dr. Kang's face was very unfriendly. House Kong didn't get anything out of this auction at all. Not only did they buy a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at a high price, but they also spent most of their money. That was not all. The most important thing was that there was basically no hope for him to become an aristocratic family. The skin-beautifying golden creation, which they had high hopes for, became dispensable in front of the special edition injury medicine from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. The 1,000-year snow lotus that they bought at a high price might not even be able to recoup the cost. Grandpa, I think Grandpa must have given the formula to Kong Xiaobo. Otherwise, why would Miracle Dr. Guan's company have the formula for the injury medicine in the special edition? Xiaolong said carefully as he looked at his grandpa who was walking around the room. I've asked. Boss said that he hasn't seen the formula. Kong Xiaobo doesn't have any formula either. Dr. Kong shook his head. I know Boss's character. If he wanted to make money, he wouldn't have quarreled with me in the first place. Grandpa, times have changed. Kong Ming Ming stood up and said, at that time, Big Grandpa didn't have a grandson, so he didn't think too much. He only thought about himself. But now, he was thinking about the future of his children and grandchildren. Look at how pitiful Kong Xiaobo is right now. His women are all my leftovers. Big Grandpa wouldn't want his grandson to be poor, would he? That's why he gave the formula to Kong Xiaobo. But he's afraid of losing face in front of you, so he won't admit it to you. Zhao Ming, what you're saying is possible. Dr. Kong nodded. Then, what do you think we should do? Kong Ming Ming was a sinister person himself, so it wasn't a problem for him to think of sinister things. But it was a bit hard for him to come up with a plan. Grandpa, I think we should get to the bottom of this. First, we need to see how they got the formula, and second, we need to get the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, Xiaolong said. Of course, we can't stop researching the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If we can make this pill, there's still hope for us to become a noble house. Of course, but we don't have our own people there. How are we supposed to get to the bottom of this? Dr. Kong nodded. Grandpa, didn't I tell you? There's a powerful person in our house, Xiaolong said as he looked at Kong Ming Ming. Dr. Kong paused, remembering what Xiaolong said in Yinjing. He nodded. Xiaolong, tell me your plan. Zhao Ming, I have a serious mission for you, Xiaolong said seriously, looking at Kong Ming Ming. Me? What mission? Kong Ming Ming was getting goosebumps from Xiaolong's stare. He didn't know what he wanted. Hit on Guan Shuamin's granddaughter, Guan Xian. What do you think? Can you complete this mission? Xiaolong asked, looking at Kong Ming Ming. Hit on girls? Kong Ming Ming paused, then smiled. I can't say for other things, but I'm pretty good at hitting on girls. That's my forte. Just leave it to me. Dr. Kong didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Kong Ming Ming's words, but this grandson of his wasn't completely useless. He really had to let him handle these side tasks. Guan Shuamin's granddaughter isn't that bad. Unlike the girls you play around with. You'll have to put in more effort, Xiaolong said. According to my research, this Guan Xian became a nurse in the hospital after graduating from medical school, but she's pretty pure. I don't think she's had a boyfriend before, so this type of girl has a pure heart. It's not easy to get her, but once you get her, she'll be completely loyal to you. If you ask her to help you with some secrets, she'll be more than willing to help you. Big bro, I didn't know you were this good. You know how girls think? Kong Ming Ming was quite surprised. He didn't think that his big bro, who'd never had a girlfriend, would know so much about women. This is just theoretical knowledge, and you're the one who's put it into practice. So, we still have to rely on you for this. If you get the recipe, you'll have done a great job. Xiaolong said, All right, big bro, I don't have much talent in management, but I'm confident in doing things like this. Just send me out for these kinds of things in the future. It'll be a piece of cake for me. Kong Ming Ming had always been worried about not having a chance to show off his skills, and now he had a chance. After finalizing the plan, the Kong family discussed the analysis of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing's formula. Xiaolong, based on the current situation, this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is different from the previous one, be it in terms of color or taste. Dr. Kong said, Could it be that we got it wrong last time? That the one we brought back was just dog shit? Chapter 570. Chapter 570. Eaten by dogs this time. We can't afford to make any more mistakes. We need to work hard on researching the ingredients of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If we have the recipe, there's still hope for us to become a noble house, Dr. Kong said. Grandpa, what about me and Wang Xinyan? Xiaolong hadn't planned on interacting with Wang Xinyan at first, but things had changed so quickly. Becoming a noble house was a sure thing, but it was all gone in the blink of an eye. This made Xiaolong very depressed. We still have to interact with her. Our family is in a troubled state right now, and we can't cut off contact with the Xiao family. Dr. Kang's voice was filled with helplessness. Xiaolong nodded. He was still very interested in Wang Xinyan, but he couldn't decide how far he should go with her because of the benefits of his family. He was afraid that House Kong would become too powerful, and he would be tied down by Wang Xinyan. He was also afraid that House Kong would lose the support of the Xiao family and become even more miserable. And so, Xiaolong didn't get a good night's sleep. He woke up early in the morning, planning to bring the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing to the lab to study its ingredients. If he really couldn't figure out what it was, then he'd have to go back to Wang Xinyan. He came to the living room, where his grandpa had placed the pill yesterday. Xiaolong was just about to reach for it when he realized that the box with the pill was open. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing inside had disappeared without a trace. Oh no! Where was the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Grandpa? Xiaolong yelped in fright. This was over 400 million. It wasn't a joke. Xiaolong's voice alerted Dr. Kong, Kong Guifeng, Kong Cuepu, and Kong Mingming. They all rushed to the living room and looked at the empty box on the coffee table, their mouths agape. Why is it gone? Who touched the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Dr. Kang's first thought was that someone in his family had secretly stolen the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, so his expression immediately darkened. Everyone was stunned, but they shook their heads. They were all members of the Kong family. Although Kong Guifeng and Kong Cuepu had some conflicts in the dark, it was still a personal grudge. How could they dare to disrupt the family's affairs? Dog fur. Kong Mingming's sharp eyes suddenly noticed a few strands of dog fur beside the box containing the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Where's the shepherd dog? Dr. Kong was stunned and frowned. Could it be that his dog had taken it away? Previously, because he had been researching dog poop, he had left the German shepherd dog at home. Later on, he realized that dog poop was useless, so he didn't bother with it and just casually kept it at home. However, he didn't expect that dog to cause trouble and steal the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Everyone in the Kong family came to their senses and started searching the entire villa for the dog. Finally, they found the German shepherd dog in a corner of the courtyard. The German shepherd dog was curled up next to a pile of broken twigs. Around the dog was a pile of dog poop. It was extremely smelly. However, Dr. Kong couldn't care less about the smell of dog poop. He picked up the German shepherd dog and started searching around. However, after searching for a long time, he couldn't find the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had disappeared. Where did this stupid dog take the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing to? Dr. Kong was incomparably anxious. Cold sweat had formed on his forehead. That was bought with shining silver. It was more than 400 million. If it was lost, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Where could they find such a small pill? This villa was huge. No matter where it fell, they wouldn't be able to take care of it. However, only Kong Mingming's expression changed. Grandpa, could it have been eaten by a dog? What do you mean Grandpa was eaten by a dog? How can you say that? Kong Cuepu was a little angry when he heard his son's inappropriate words. It's not that Grandpa was eaten by a dog. I'm saying the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was eaten by a dog. Kong Mingming hurriedly explained. This dog's condition is similar to the last time I ate it. It's all diarrhea, and it's lying there powerlessly. When Dr. Kong heard Kong Mingming's words, he looked at the dog's condition. Indeed, it was no different. His head immediately buzzed and his vision went black. He collapsed to the ground and fainted. Anyone in his shoes would faint. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing that was bought with 400 million was eaten by a dog. How was anyone supposed to live? Dr. Kong fainted was still all right. If it were someone with a weaker mental fortitude, their heart would have exploded. The rest of them weren't much better off than Dr. Kong. He was the Kong family's only hope for ascension, but he was eaten by a dog just like that. The heavens weren't helping the Kong family. However, regardless of what the heavens were thinking, the Kong family hurriedly sent Dr. Kong to the hospital. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was gone. If anything happened to Dr. Kong, the Kong family would really be finished. Miracle Dr. Kong, on the other hand, was fine. He'd only fainted because of the anxiety and woke up when he got to the hospital. He was worried about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at home. Even if it was eaten by a dog, he'd kill the dog and extract the pill from its stomach. You bastards, why are you sending me to the hospital? What a waste of time. Why don't you open up the dog's stomach and see if there's any pill inside? Dr. Kong was furious. These wastrels were really infuriating. Didn't they know what was more important? Kong Guifeng and the rest looked at each other. That's right. Why didn't they think of that? It was probably too late to go back now, right? The dog had already digested the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. But no matter what, Dr. Kong still rushed out of the hospital and brought his family back to the villa. What greeted him was a shepherd dog full of energy. There was no need to mention how energetic this shepherd dog was. It jumped up and down with inexhaustible energy. Dr. Kong regretted it when he saw the dog. The dog must have digested the pill already. How else could it be so energetic? But Miracle Dr. Kong still wanted to give it a try. He killed the dog, but there was nothing left in the dog's stomach. It seemed like it had been digested. Dr. Kong sat on the ground, almost crying himself to death. He almost rolled on the ground. 400 million. That was more than 400 million. Gone just like that. There was nothing left. Why was his family so unlucky? Dr. Kong pounded his chest and stamped his feet. The others weren't any better. Kong Guifeng and Kong Cuepu had dark expressions on their faces, and Xiaolong and Kong Mingming were feeling extremely regretful as well. Another good opportunity was missed by the Kong family. Chapter 571. Dr. Kong almost died. Yes. Let's eat dog meat. Dr. Kong perked up. Xiaoming's idea is still the best. Since the dog ate the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, let's eat the dog. It should have some effect, right? The rest of the Kong family felt that it made sense. So, the Kong family quickly cooked the dog meat. The dog was really strong, and the whole family ate it for an entire night before the dog meat was all gone. Everyone wanted to extend their lifespan, and while ensuring that Miracle Dr. Kong had enough to eat, the others all fought to eat as well. In the end, they had to force themselves to eat, waiting for a miracle to happen. However, their idea was good, but the actual result was sad. On the second day, other than everyone eating too much and shitting more than usual, there was no effect at all. The dog meat was basically wasted. Dr. Kang's heart ached. What an eventful time. Wasn't the Kong family's bad luck a little too much? His heart was bleeding. He had worked so hard to save up 400 million yuan, and now it was gone just like that. Grandpa, since the dog ate the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, he probably couldn't digest it completely, right? There might even be some pill of life extension and toxin cleansing in the dog poop. Why don't I try eating some dog poop? Kong Mingming's brain worked. Since the dog meat had no effect, he turned his attention to the dog poop. Dr. Kong heard Kong Mingming's words and felt that it made sense. There might really be some pill of life extension and toxin cleansing in the dog poop. If he let Kong Mingming eat it, Kong Mingming might just get lucky again. So, Dr. Kong gritted his teeth and said, "I'll eat it. You already ate it last time. Let me try it this time." There wasn't a lot of dog poop, so everyone coveted it. However, since Dr. Kong had spoken, the descendants of the Kong family could only give this precious opportunity to eat dog poop to Dr. Kong. This time, the dog poop was much smellier than usual. However, in order to prolong his life, Dr. Kong had no choice but to bite the bullet and eat it. He was almost suffocated to death by the smell of the dog poop. If he hadn't gritted his teeth and endured, he might have vomited it out. But this time, Dr. Kong was disappointed again. Not only was he disappointed, but he almost lost his life. After eating the dog poop, he started to vomit and have diarrhea, but there was no detoxification. After 2 to 3 days, Dr. Kong was almost dehydrated. When the Kong family saw that things couldn't go on like this, they quickly sent Old Man Kong to the hospital. After a checkup, it was confirmed that he had food poisoning. The doctor said that if he had come 2 days later, the old man would have died. The Kangs were puzzled at first. How could they be poisoned by eating dog poop? But when Dr. Kong woke up, his words woke them up. The name of the pill was the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Naturally, it was for detoxification. What he ate was the poison excreted by dogs. Wouldn't that make him food poisoning? The Kangs tried 13 different methods, and in the end, Dr. Kong almost lost his life. Dr. Kong called for a family meeting on his sickbed, listing this incident as House Kang's top secret. No one was to mention it in the future. There was no other reason than that it was too embarrassing. If this were to be exposed, House Kong would be done for. For now, they should just stick to Kong Mingming's plan of hitting on girls. Starting with Guan Xian was the best option. If they could get the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, House Kong would be able to survive this crisis. Lin Yi looked at Pinliang's calm, yet hazy eyes. He had a vague feeling that there was something wrong with him, but he couldn't figure out what Pinliang was planning. Intuition told Lin Yi that Pinliang would definitely take revenge, but he didn't know if the target would be House Chu or Jiang Wen. On the way back to school, Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo sat together. Kang Xiaobo didn't hide his joy at all. Pinliang, that little bastard, finally got his comeuppance. Let's see if he can still jump around after losing one of his kidneys. What's wrong with Tang Yin? Why didn't she come to school today? Do you have Xiaofan's phone number? Can you ask? Lin Yi was worried about Tang Yin. He hadn't seen her for a few days, and he missed her. He didn't know why Tang Yin was avoiding him. Was there a misunderstanding? Oh, today. The slums are being demolished. They said that they're here to discuss the compensation. They want everyone to stay. Lu Xinwen took the day off, and Tang Yin should be at home. Kang Xiaobo said. I see. Lin Yi nodded. Mrs. Tang had told him about this before, and he had also told them that after the demolition, he would pay some money for a retail house. Lin Yi was relieved after hearing Kang Xiaobo's reason. As long as Tang Yin was at home, nothing would happen. Boss, I need to tell you something. Yesterday, Zhou Ruoming's father came to my house. Kang Xiaobo told Lin Yi about what happened at the tea house, especially when Kang Xiaobo and Zhou Ruoming were scared when they heard Lin Yi's name. It made Kang Xiaobo very happy. Lin Yi only smiled faintly. Lin Yi didn't feel any sense of achievement to make these small people afraid of him. Only Kang Xiaobo would be this excited. Today was a big day in Shantytown, because a development company was going to renovate the Shantytown. In fact, this was good news. The residents of Shantytown were looking forward to living in a building. Of course, they also wanted to get a lot of compensation. It wasn't that no development company had the idea of Shantytown before, but in the end, they gave up because the development cost was too high. The development company was responsible for the compensation and relocation of the relocated residents. However, Shantytown was different from the general old city reconstruction. Although the houses in Shantytown were dilapidated, due to historical reasons, the area of each house was not small. In addition to the house, each house also had a bicycle shed, a warehouse, and a straw shed. These all had housing certificates. When the demolition was carried out, they also had to pay compensation according to the area. In this way, in addition to the house, each house had a shed or warehouse that was a few hundred meters wide. How much would it cost to demolish them? Even if they gave 3 to 5 houses, it wouldn't be enough. In such a situation, which development company dared to develop it? Wouldn't it be a losing business? However, there was no other way. Shantytown had historical reasons. It was originally a rural area, and later changed into a town. It wasn't until the end of 2,000 years that it was connected to the city. Gradually, after more than 10 years of development, it became the main city area. In the past, when the cost of land was cheap, no development company was interested in this place. But later, the supporting facilities nearby were upgraded, and the housing prices rose. Now, this place couldn't afford to be demolished. Chapter 572. Kill one to warn others. Tang Juqing could already stand up and walk a few steps with the help of a crutch. However, there seemed to be some problem with the nerves in his left leg. It wasn't very sensitive, so he walked with a limp and stayed at home. Today was a big day in the slums. Other than Tang Juqing, the mother and daughter came to the only square in the slums, which used to be the garbage dump. Later on, the city started a garbage removal project and set up a few temporary garbage dumps in the slums. Only then did they completely remove the garbage dump. Otherwise, the smell would be unbearable in the summer. After it was cleaned up, it became a place for the elderly to play chess and exercise. It was also an empty space for the kids to play. Today, it became a place for negotiations with the developers. Behind the empty space, between 2 trees, there was a sign. Welcome to Qibing Real Estate's renovation of the slums. Qibing sat in the back of the Audi Q7, and Zhong Fabai was the temporary driver. Jing Gubong sat in the front passenger seat, and beside Qibing was a middle-aged man. They couldn't tell who this middle-aged man was. He suddenly appeared next to Qibing early in the morning. Qibing didn't introduce him, and the middle-aged man didn't say much either. However, Fabai and Jing Gubong guessed that this man was Qibing's bodyguard. It was just that he wasn't here for the past few days. Behind the Audi Q7 was a black van with Zhong Fabai's underlings sitting in it. They were the thugs in charge of the negotiation. Their purpose was to teach those disobedient residents a lesson. The car stopped near the empty space, and Qibing saw the sign on the square with one glance. He felt very satisfied. It seemed that these people had been waiting for their relocation for a long time, and now that he had the initiative, he would be able to lower the price a bit more for them. Master Bing, these people seem to welcome you very much, Fabai said flatteringly, but in his mind, he was planning to divert the trouble. Let's see if they still welcome you when you tell them the price later. Master Bing wasn't stupid. He knew that these people didn't know the price he was going to give them. They wouldn't welcome him when he told them the price. So what if they don't welcome me? They still have to demolish it. This is Master Bing's first project in Songshan. You can't let these unruly people ruin it. Zhong Fabai said. Naturally, we won't stop because of them. However, if these unruly people don't allow us to demolish it, it will be troublesome. Zhao Qibing looked at the people in the square and frowned. It's obvious that these people have discussed this beforehand. I'm afraid that the negotiation won't go smoothly. This will depend on your determination, Master Bing. Fabai smiled. Since Sihua Bro asked me to come here, I know what's going on. I do have some tricks up my sleeves, but Master Bing, you have to give me a limit. No matter how big the problem is, can I take responsibility? As long as we don't kill these people, we'll be fine, Master Bing said calmly. In Master Bing's eyes, the residents of the slums were like ants. He didn't believe that they could cause any trouble. With Master Bing here, things will be much easier. Fabai patted his chest and said, Master Bing, just watch. I'm the best at dealing with these unruly people. If it doesn't work, we'll just use the bulldozer and scare them to death. Yes, as long as they don't kill anyone, anything is fine. Master Bing nodded. But it's best if you kill one to warn the others. I'm afraid that I won't be able to suppress it if it causes too much of a commotion. But injuring or crippling one or two is still an accident, right? Understood. Fabai nodded. Master Bing, let's see if there are any troublemakers later. It'll be easier after we get rid of them. That's what I meant. But old Zhong, don't you think you have too few people? Looking at the slums in the square, Zhao Qibing felt that Fabai's men might not be able to intimidate these people. Of course, he wasn't afraid himself, but he was afraid that something might happen. That's why he asked his father for this master. Not to mention the hundreds of people in the square. Even if there were more, he would be fine. But it would be too much of a problem if he asked his bodyguards to deal with these people. Master Bing, these are just the workers who came with us. There's still the bulldozer and the trenching machine behind them. They'll be here soon. Fabai looked at his watch and said, They should be here soon. That's good. I'll leave it to you later. Zhao Qibing was relieved when he heard that Fabai still had men. Let's see who's not convinced later. We'll tear down their houses first. We should be more forceful from the start, or else these unruly people will take advantage of us. Fabai calculated in his heart. He'd tear down Tang Yun's house later, and it'd be best if they made a big commotion. If Tang Yun was hurt, Linny wouldn't just stand by and do nothing, right? When the time came, he would push all the blame away and let Linny take revenge on Master Bing. If Linny went against Master Bing, wouldn't he be seeking death? Master Bing nodded and got out of the car. Accompanied by Fabai, Jing Gubong, and the bodyguard, they came to a temporary rostrum in the square and sat down. The residents of the slums quietened down as well. They stared at the people on the rostrum without blinking. These were people who could decide their fates. Their words were like gold. How could they not be careful? This is the chairman of our Qibing Real Estate Development Company, Zhao Qibing, Director Zhao. He's in charge of this slums reconstruction. If you guys have any requests, you can tell us. We'll discuss the demolition plan. Fabai remembered Zhao Qibing's words. Kill one to warn 100. He had to find someone to establish his dominance, so he purposely said those words. He was waiting for someone who didn't care about their lives to ask for more. Then, he'd teach them a lesson so that they wouldn't dare to ask for more. Fabai's words stunned the residents on the spot. Wasn't it always the developer who came and asked if they wanted to demolish the slums or not? Why was it a negotiation this time? Could it be that the developer this time had a conscience and was prepared to bring some benefits to the slums? So, the residents started to think, but no one dared to step out first. After all, no one knew if the developer was telling the truth or not. Chapter 573. Kill one to warn others. They came to the slums early in the morning. Master Bing hadn't eaten yet, and his stomach was growling. Fabai was attentive and stood beside Master Bing, so he heard the growling and found a chance to get on Master Bing's good side. Master Bing was hungry as well, so he nodded. Let's eat something first then. The slums residents, who had been waiting for a long time, were dumbfounded. Why did these big bosses just come and leave like that? They were waiting to talk about the price, and now they were going to eat? What was the meaning of this? But they didn't dare to ask. They watched as Master Bing and the others left. Bing and the others were about to get into the car to eat when he heard someone call his name. Master Bing, wait for me. Bing turned around and froze. He recognized the person immediately. You're Li Erlin, right? It's me. Erlin was overjoyed. He didn't think that Master Bing would still recognize him after all this time. Master Bing, I've missed you so much. Don't you know that I've lost my purpose in life after you left? I can't live without boss. I feel so empty. Bing had spent a few days in Songzhan during middle school, so he got to know the tyrant of the school, Li Erlin. Bing was rich, and he had bodyguards at school. Erlin wasn't an idiot who only knew how to fight. He could tell that Bing's family wasn't ordinary, and he could get some benefits from Bing. And so, he volunteered to be Bing's follower. Bing had bodyguards that wanted to send him to school, but bodyguards couldn't go to school. Having a follower in school was a great thing, and so Bing was very happy that Erlin had joined him. He didn't mistreat him, and Erlin got quite a lot of benefits from Bing as well. Who would have thought that Bing wouldn't even stay for 2 months before transferring schools? Li Erlin was quite troubled. He'd thought that he'd be the young master's follower for a long time, and that he'd be able to find a better future in the future, but the young master had already transferred schools. Bing had the ability to transfer schools, but Erlin didn't. He could only stay in his old school obediently. But Zhao Bing was quite comfortable using Erlin, so he didn't mind Erlin calling him after he left. Bing had contacted Li Erlin before coming back to Songzhan, but this was the first time they'd met, and Li Erlin looked a little different than before. Oh, let's go get something to eat. Bing nodded and introduced Li Erlin to Fabai and the others. This is Li Erlin, my follower from Songzhan. He lives in the slums too. You can ask him about the demolition. Fabai looked down on Li Erlin before, but when he heard that he was Zhao Bing's follower, he immediately became respectful. After all, he wasn't Zhao Bing's follower yet. He was only working for Zhao Bing now, not the core of the organization. Gubong, on the other hand, was secretly astonished as well. How was this inconspicuous gangster Master Bing's lackey? But he didn't dare ask. Bing found a restaurant. He didn't have much interest in food, but he was interested in women and money. Let's go here. Erlin, go ask if there's a private room. All right. Erlin was a gangster in this area, and naturally, he knew the owner of the restaurant. After entering, he called out to the waiter. Get your boss out here. The waiter knew Erlin, too, and knew that he was a gangster. He didn't dare offend him, so he quickly nodded and called the boss over. The boss frowned when he saw Erlin. Erlin, didn't I give you pocket money this month? Why are you here again? The boss wasn't afraid of Erlin, but it was better to give a gangster like him some benefits every month. It would be troublesome if they caused trouble. What do you mean again? I'm here to have a meal. I'm looking up to you. My boss is here. Prepare a private room. Erlin glared at the boss impatiently. My boss is Chairman Zhao from Bing Real Estate. He's from the capital. The boss, on the other hand, had heard that Bing Real Estate was in charge of renovating the slums nearby. He paused, wondering when did this Erlin get to know such a powerful boss? He didn't dare to delay and put on a smile. Erlin, it seems like you're going to make a fortune in the future. Don't forget about us after you become a boss. Of course. All right, stop talking and get a private room. Lee Erlin was very pleased with the boss's words. He was also thinking that since Master Bing had come here to start a company, as his former follower, could he also get a job for himself and let him be the boss of a company? The boss personally sent Master Bing and the others to the private room. He didn't know Master Bing, but he had seen Zhong Fabai before. Which restaurant owner didn't know Zhong Fabai? Seeing how respectful Zhong Fabai was to the young man, the boss knew that Master Bing wasn't someone to be trifled with. Soon, the dishes were placed on the table. Zhao Qibing ate some and asked Erlin, I told you that I'm going to develop the slums. Did you ask around? What's the situation like now? The relocated households have already discussed it. They want 3,000 yuan per square meter as compensation. Lee Erlin said, they're asking for too much. That's bullsh *t. 3,000? Zhao Qibing laughed coldly. The price of a house here is only 10,000, and they want 3,000? That's right. If it were up to me, they'd be asking for more than 1,000. Erlin said, Master Bing, I've asked around. There's no one with a powerful background in the slums. They're all small fries. Just do whatever you want. It'll be fine. That's good. Zhao Qibing nodded and turned to Fabai. If that's the case, demolish a few houses for me today. Demolish the house of the troublemaker first. Let's see if they'll still dare to be cocky after that. Don't worry, Master Bing. The bulldozer and trenching machine are already in place. We can start any time. Fabai nodded. Chapter 574. Chapter 574 Incho? How pretty is she? Master Bing's eyes lit up, but he maintained a calm expression. He had passed the age where he couldn't move when he saw a woman. Although he was lustful, he had good taste. He had played with many women over the years, and some of them were exquisite. But the more he did it, the more Master Bing developed aesthetic fatigue. Now, he was only interested in girls, especially virgins. That was his favorite. Tang Yun, have you heard of her? She's the prettiest girl in Songshan's first high school and the #1 beauty in the slums. Erlin said, I have a photo here. Master Bing, can you take a look? Oh, let me see. Master Bing took Erlin's phone. It was filled with photos of Tang Yun that Erlin had secretly taken. Fabai was overjoyed. He was just thinking about how to shift the blame to Tang Yun when Erlin appeared. It was perfect timing. Now, he had a reason to mess with Tang Yun's family. Master Bing, I've heard of this Tang Yun before. My son is also studying in Songshan's first high school. There's a commoner school beauty called Tang Yun. Fabai interrupted, but I heard that she got a boyfriend recently. Just got a boyfriend? Not in the past? Master Bing's eyes lit up. It was very likely that the girl was a virgin. He looked at the photos on Erlin's phone. They were the best of the best. If the photos were already so pretty, how beautiful would the real person be? He was most interested in this type of woman. Not in the past, Master Bing. I'm sure that Tang Yun is still a virgin. Erlin said, I've done some research on this. Women who have lost their virginity before can tell. Zhao Qibing nodded. Old Zhong, think of a way to deal with Tang Yun's family. This girl is mine. Don't worry, Master Bing. I'll take care of it. Zhong Fabai's heart was filled with joy. God is helping me. This Lee Erlin is such a wonderful person. I heard that Tang Yun's family wants to build a storefront after the demolition. We can use this as a bargaining chip. Lee Erlin had already asked around about Tang Yun's family. He was from the slums, after all, so it wasn't hard for him to find out. Zhong Fabai nodded. He was even more grateful to Lee Erlin. This time, he even had a reason to make things difficult for him. He didn't have to think about it anymore. After the meal, they returned to the square of Shantytown. However, there was one more person on the podium. It was Lee Erlin. The residents of Shantytown were somewhat inexplicable. Why did these big bosses come and leave, and then come back? What kind of play was this? Seeing Lee Erlin on the rostrum, the residents of Shantytown were annoyed. Lee Erlin must have colluded with the enemy and told the developers about the residents' opinions. Because Lee Erlin was also a member of Shantytown, they did not hide it from him during the meeting, so he knew more about it. Now, it seemed that it was a mistake. This brat was indeed a bad seed. He actually became a spy. Have you finished discussing? If you haven't, then let me talk about the compensation rules of Chibing real estate. Fabai cleared his throat and looked at the crowd. The compensation for every square meter is 800. After the house is built, we can give the returning residents a discount. The returning residents can enjoy a 20% discount, but the storefront and the garage are excluded. 800? The residents of Shanty Town were unhappy and started to clamor. How high are the housing prices now? How are we supposed to buy a house with 800? The housing prices here are already 10,000, and it's still 8,000 after a 20% discount. We will calculate the size of the sheds and the warehouse. Adding all of these together, it shouldn't be a problem for your family to buy a small house of 30 to 40 square meters, Fabai said indifferently. Okay, if there are no more problems, let's sign the agreement. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. The amount of compensation they agreed on was 3,000, but the bottom line was 2,000. With such a sum of money, they could buy a decent big house elsewhere. However, they didn't expect the developer to only give 800. Wasn't the difference a little too big? The most disappointed person was Mrs. Tang. Her house was small, and she didn't have a warehouse or shed. She just wanted to buy a storefront and start a barbecue business with the money that Linny gave her. But the returning residents didn't get a discount when buying a storefront. What kind of logic was this? We're not going to demolish it. What kind of compensation is this? If we demolish it, we won't have a place to live. Don't you guys agree? Someone started to clamor. Since someone had started it, there were more people who were dissatisfied. They all expressed their disagreement. This kind of compensation was too little. 3,000, not 1 cent less. We won't move if it's less. You guys can build wherever you want. Lee Erlin, are you colluding with them? You traitor. How dare you betray us, Shanty Town? We're all on the first floor. Why don't we get a discount when buying a storefront? If that's the case, then we might as well not move. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but ask. She didn't have much of an opinion on the compensation. Even if they gave 2,000, it wouldn't be more than 10,000. Mrs. Tang didn't want to speak up at first. After all, it wasn't suitable for a woman to speak up in a situation like this. But since everyone started to speak up, she didn't care anymore. However, Zhong Fabai pointed at her the moment she opened her mouth. You want a storefront? Then come over here. Mrs. Tang blinked. She didn't hear anything from Zhong Fabai's tone. Could it be that he wanted to give her a discount? Mrs. Tang was tempted and wanted to walk over. Tang Yun was a little scared. Mom, don't go. The bird that sticks out gets shot. Silly child. Can't you see that everyone is making a fuss? If you don't fight for the benefits now, when are you going to fight for it? Mrs. Tang glared at her daughter. There's strength in numbers. Don't you understand? You still want to talk to them in private? Don't forget about your father's matter. We can't solve anything by ourselves. Now that we have more people, we can raise some conditions together. They will definitely solve it. Then, I'll go with you. Tang Yun was still worried. After all, she had seen how evil the bad guys could be. Tang Yun walked with Mrs. Tang. Zhong Fabai's eyes lit up when he saw Tang Yun. This Linny had good taste. This girl was quite pretty. What a pity. Chapter 575. Chapter 575. House Tang's Tragedy. You want a retail store, right? Master Bing has the final say on this. Why don't you talk to him? Fabai purposely pushed Mrs. Tang towards Zhao Qibing. Master Bing, what do you think? We want a storefront. Is it possible? Mrs. Tang looked at Zhao Qibing worriedly. Qibing was obviously the one in charge, and he looked a little gloomy. Mrs. Tang didn't dare to look at him. Retail store. Master Bing didn't look at Mrs. Tang, but looked at Tang Yun with a lecherous gaze. I can give you the retail store. It's up to you. What? How? Mrs. Tang was taken aback. She didn't expect Master Bing to say this. Not only could he give her a retail store, he could even give her the retail store for free. What kind of logic was this? Was there such a good person in the world? It wasn't possible. This is your daughter, right? Zhao Qibing looked at Tang Yun with a lecherous gaze. I need a female secretary here. Let her follow me. Let's not talk about one retail store. I can even give you two. Mrs. Tang was taken aback. She understood what Zhao Qibing meant. He had his eyes on her daughter. But was it worth it to trade her daughter for a retail store? Lin Yi didn't want his daughter anymore. It wouldn't be bad if his daughter followed Zhao Qibing. But would his words count? Tang Yun looked at her mother angrily. It was obvious that Zhao Qibing's conditions had moved her mother, but how could Tang Yun like Zhao Qibing? How could she agree to his conditions? Tang Yun pulled her mother's hand. Mom, let's go back. We don't want the retail store anymore. Mrs. Tang knew her daughter's personality. If it was someone she didn't like, she would never agree. She was as stubborn as a cow. It was useless to force her. The thing with Lin Yi was that she liked Lin Yi. But this Zhao Qibing was obviously playing around with her. If he really wanted Tang Yun to be his girlfriend, he wouldn't have made her his secretary. Let's go. Tang Yun turned around. She hated Zhao Qibing. Go? You can come and go as you please? Li Erlin suddenly jumped out and stood in front of the mother and daughter. I say, Tang Yun, it's your fortune that Master Bing has his eyes on you. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You'll lose everything if you cause a ruckus. Li Erlin, you traitor. Get out of my way. Tang Yun held her head high. This Zhao Qibing obviously didn't have good intentions. How could she continue talking to them? Although Lin Yi didn't want him, he couldn't humiliate himself, right? Become someone's toy? She would rather be Lin Yi's mistress. Tang Yun, right? I'm not afraid to tell you that there's no woman I can't get my hands on. If you know what's good for you and follow me, then you'll have a good life. Your family will have a store and a house. But if you don't follow me, then you'll have to bear the consequences. Zhao Qibing laughed coldly and made a bold statement. In front of so many people, Tang Yun rejected him like this. It made him lose face. In the provincial capital, as long as Master Bing beckoned with his finger, many beauties would throw themselves into his arms. He thought that if Tang Yun promised her some benefits, she would obediently follow him. He didn't expect her to have such a personality. We don't want the store anymore, and we won't demolish the house. We'll live in the old house, okay? What else can you do? Tang Yun's personality was like this. She would rather give up the house than let others bully her. Not demolishing the house? That's not up to you. Zhao Qibing wanted to make an example out of Tang Yun. He couldn't find a target yet, so he decided to use Tang Yun's house as an example. He looked at Zhong Fabai. Fabai nodded and stood up, walking out of the square with Li Erlin. Mrs. Tang looked at her daughter helplessly. With this, the negotiation had come to an impasse. It was impossible to back out now. She didn't want the store anymore. She pulled her daughter and wanted to walk back. Did I say you could leave? Jing Gubong said coldly. Zhong Fabai and Li Erlin were gone, so it was his turn to speak. Can't we leave if we don't demolish the house? Tang Yun glared at Jing Gubong. Let them go. They'll regret it later, Zhao Qibing said faintly, but his tone was firm. He could already hear the sound of the bulldozer and trenching machine. Tang Yun and her daughter were confused. Why would they regret it later? But since they could go back now, they didn't want to stay here any longer. Mrs. Tang pulled Tang Yun home. She wanted to go back and discuss with Tang Yun. They couldn't just let it go like this, could they? What would they do if they gave up the store? Their dream of opening a barbecue shop was shattered. The two of them were near their house when they saw a trenching machine extending its arm, smashing towards their house. The bulldozers behind them roared as they pushed into the Tang family's courtyard, flattening all the fences in front of the door. Dad! Old Tang! Tang Yun and her mother screamed at the same time and ran back to their house. They didn't expect Zhao Qibing to send people to demolish their house. But Tang Juqing was still in the house. What should they do? Tang Yun ignored the danger and rushed into the house while Mrs. Tang went to stop the excavator from demolishing the house. At this moment, the beams were all destroyed. They didn't know if Tang Juqing was injured or not. He wouldn't be able to get out without help. What are you doing? My dad is still inside. Stop. Tang Yun yelled at the driver as she ran. However, Li Erlin, who was sitting next to the trenching machine driver, had a fierce look in his eyes. He said to the trenching machine driver, "Continue to dismantle it. She is lying. Master Bing said that he will take responsibility if anything happens." The driver nodded and continued to operate the machine. Tang Yun saw that they weren't listening and could only rush into the house. But could she still enter the house? The bulldozer was blocking the front door and pushing forward. It was obvious that they wanted to cooperate with the trenching machine and destroy the house. Chapter 576. Her face. Someone's dead. Someone's dead. Mrs. Tang saw that her daughter was smashed and rushed over like a madwoman. She didn't know how her husband was doing, and now her daughter was smashed. What should she do? The trencher and bulldozer drivers were dumbfounded and didn't dare to continue. After all, they were hired by Zhong Fabai. Zhong Fabai and Master Bing could handle the demolition, but if someone was killed, they wouldn't be able to get away with it. Zhong Fabai froze as well. He didn't think that Tang Yun would be so bold as to rush into the house. Did she want to die? Qibing, Jing Gubong, and the bodyguards were here to watch the commotion, but Mrs. Tang's scream of, "Someone's dead," shocked them as well. Zhao Qibing frowned when he saw the disfigured Tang Yun lying in a pool of blood. He cursed in his heart. Such a beautiful girl was killed just like that? Even if she wasn't dead, she wasn't pretty anymore. What a pity. Let's go. We'll come back in a few days. Seeing that someone was injured, Zhao Qibing knew that he couldn't continue the discussion today. However, he had achieved his goal of killing one as a warning to the others. After today's scene, these people wouldn't be able to ask for an exorbitant price the next time they came to discuss the issue of relocation. Don't go. Everyone, hurry up and stop them. We don't know what happened to Ian. They can't leave. They're murderers. Mrs. Tang saw that Zhao Qibing and the others were trying to escape and panicked. However, Zhao Qibing and the others got on the bulldozer and continued driving forward. The residents of the slums wanted to stop them, but no one dared to step forward. After all, these people dared to demolish people's houses. They wouldn't be afraid of being crushed to death. Zhao Qibing shouted when he saw that there were people who were eager to try. Go ahead if you're not afraid of death. Don't worry about these people. We'll crush them to death. Zhao Qibing's domineering attitude made the people who wanted to make a move stop. After all, everyone was afraid of death, especially someone like Zhao Qibing who wasn't afraid of death. Who would dare to provoke him? And so, Qibing's group left the slums very quickly, leaving only Mrs. Tang hugging Tang Yun and crying her heart out. The door was broken, and they couldn't get in. They didn't know if old Tang was all right or not. Someone had already called the police and the ambulance, but it was the fire truck that came first. The firefighters broke down the half-demolished house and rescued Juqing. Mrs. Tang breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that only Tang Juqing's legs were broken. Tang Juqing could still speak when he was carried out, but he was grimacing in pain and sweating profusely. Mrs. Tang couldn't be bothered to comfort him. She just hugged her daughter and waited for the ambulance. Then, the ambulance and police car arrived. Mrs. Tang quickly carried her daughter into the ambulance, and Tang Juqing was also carried into the other ambulance. The two ambulances sped towards the hospital. After the group left, Qibing gave the bulldozer and trench digger a sum of money and told them to leave first. The two were scared and ran after taking the money. Qibing, on the other hand, wasn't scared at all. If anything happened, he could just push the blame onto the two drivers. Uncle Zhu, follow them and create an accident. Kill them, Qibing whispered to the middle-aged bodyguard beside him after the two drivers left. Yes, Master Bing. The middle-aged man called Uncle Zhu didn't say anything else. He turned around and chased after the two drivers. Naturally, Qibing wouldn't allow the evidence to point at him after someone died. The only way was to eliminate the source of the trouble. After all, he didn't know if anyone died or not. Qibing had asked Uncle Zhu to kill a lot of people already, so he didn't feel guilty at all. He laughed and rushed back to Qibing's skyscraper with Erlin, Fabai, and Jing Gubong. Qibing skyscraper was the headquarters of Qibing Real Estate built by Gubong and Sihua a while ago. It was officially completed today. Qibing, on the other hand, was holding a completion ceremony for Qibing skyscraper tonight. He invited some of the famous people in Songshan to the banquet hall in front of Qibing skyscraper. This banquet hall would become a restaurant after the completion of Qibing skyscraper. It was also the cafeteria for the employees of Qibing skyscraper. Tang Yun and Tang Juqing were sent to the hospital. When they arrived, Tang Yun was already awake. Mrs. Tang breathed a sigh of relief. After the medical staff's examination, Tang Yun only had a cut on her forehead. There were no other problems. But the wound on her forehead needed stitches, and it would leave a scar. It was impossible for her to be as beautiful as before. It was already good enough that she didn't scare people when she went out. Tang Juqing, on the other hand, had both of his legs broken. He was put on a cast after being sent to the hospital. He was fine except for the fact that he could stand up just now. Now, he had to lie on the bed again. In fact, Tang Yun and Tang Juqing were fine. But after Mrs. Tang breathed a sigh of relief, she started to worry again. Her house was forcefully demolished. She didn't even have a home in the future. What should she do? Now that her daughter's face was disfigured, she didn't even have the capital to bargain with Zhao Qibing. Would he still like her? So, Mrs. Tang was worried. She was hoping that her daughter could find a rich man with her face. But now, she had nothing. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, had never thought of asking Zhao Qibing for medical fees. The memory of how hard it was for Tang Juqing was still fresh in her mind. She didn't expect Zhao Qibing to compensate them at all. Tang Yun's head was covered with bandages. She stared blankly at the ceiling of the hospital. Wouldn't she be pretty in the future? Was she going to become an ugly monster? Although, Tang Yun did get angry when she met bad guys who were drooling over her beauty. She wanted to become ugly so that she wouldn't be harassed. But women were born to love beauty. She didn't want to become ugly, did she? Would Lin Yi still like her? Tang Yun thought about how Lin Yi didn't want her anymore. Tears started to flow down her face. At first, she still had the capital to compete with Xiao Xiao, but now that her face was disfigured, Lin Yi probably wouldn't want her anymore, right? Don't be sad. The doctor said that if you recover well, there won't be a big scar left. Mrs. Tang didn't know when she walked into the room. Seeing her daughter crying silently, Mrs. Tang's heart broke. Mom. Tang Yun couldn't hold back her emotions anymore. She started crying. Mom, why is our family so unlucky? Why? Why did they demolish our house? Why? Chapter 577. What to do in the future, you're right. The bird that pokes its head out gets shot. But Mom, I shouldn't have tried to take advantage of them and asked for a store. Now that I think about it, they just wanted to make an example out of me. We just happened to bump into each other. Mrs. Tang continued. Tang Yun felt wronged. Half of it was because she was bullied, and the other half was because she was abandoned by Lin Yi. It seemed like the ugly duckling was destined to never become a swan. She thought that she had found a good boyfriend, but in the end, he just wanted to play with her. After hearing Zhao Qibing's words, Tang Yun suddenly understood. Girls from poor families like her were just playthings in the eyes of those rich young masters. How could they be sincere? She was naive enough to think that Lin Yi would treat her well for the rest of his life. While the mother and daughter were worrying, a doctor in a white coat walked in and looked at Mrs. Tang. You're Tang Juqing and Tang Yun's family, right? You should pay for the surgery and hospital fees. The 10,000 yuan deposit isn't enough. Not enough? Mrs. Tang didn't know what to do. This 10,000 yuan was borrowed from the slums. Her house was torn down, and Lin Yi's card was nowhere to be found. How was she going to pay for the medical fees? Yes, please pay as soon as possible. You need to pay at least 20,000 yuan. The doctor placed the receipt on the table in front of Mrs. Tang and walked out. Mrs. Tang looked at the receipt in front of her and didn't know what to do. Mom, do you have no money? Where's the money? Tang Yun saw her mother's expression and temporarily suppressed the grievances in her heart. I didn't bring the card and passbook with me. I don't know if I can find them. This 10,000 yuan is borrowed from Lu Xinwen's family. It's not enough. Mrs. Tang sighed. Now that our house is gone, and you and your dad are injured, how are we going to survive? No matter how hard their family had been in the past, they were never at a dead end. But now, they were at a dead end. Their house was gone, and they had no money. The card was in Lin Yi's name, and they couldn't report it. What would they do in the future? Mrs. Tang was worried when Lu Xinwen pushed the door open and ran in. She shouted, Yun, how are you? How are you? You scared me to death. Lu Xinwen couldn't follow the ambulance, so she had to come here by herself. That was why she had only just arrived at the hospital. I'm fine. Tang Yun smiled bitterly and rubbed her eyes. She didn't want Xinwen to see her crying. But Lu Xinwen wasn't blind. How could she not see the tear stains in Tang Yun's eyes? Yun, are you crying? Lu Xinwen exclaimed. What's wrong? What's the matter? Isn't the doctor fine now? Xinwen, I'm disfigured. Tang Yun couldn't hold it in anymore. She'd had enough. She wanted to cry now. She wouldn't be a pretty girl anymore. Compared to his father's broken leg, the consequences of Tang Yun's actions were much more serious. Tang Juqing only had a fracture. It was nothing serious. As long as he recovered, he would be fine. But Tang Yun's face was disfigured. How could she accept it? Her face was disfigured? Xinwen was also shocked. Tang Yun was the prettiest of the sisters. How could she be disfigured? 8 stitches on her forehead. Mrs. Tang smiled bitterly. Her home is gone, and her father's leg is broken. He still owes you money, and the hospital is asking for medical fees. How are we going to live like this? Did you tell Lin Yi? Lu Xinwen asked suddenly. Why would I look for him? Tang Yun felt wronged and almost cried again. Let Lin Yi see how pitiful she was. How could she? If Xiao Xiao came, she'd laugh at her and be happy that her face was disfigured. How could you not look for him when something like this happened? You idiot, hurry up and call him. Lu Xinwen was panicking. He doesn't want me anymore. Why would I look for him? Why would I rely on him? Tang Yun cried again. She was sad and wronged. I have to say, kid, they say that a day together means 100 days of love. I think he likes you. Why don't you try calling him? Our family is already like this. How are we going to live if we don't look for him? Mrs. Tang hesitated. Even if we don't want anything else, we should at least pay up that 500,000 yuan card, right? Like me? Like what? I'm disfigured. I don't even want to be his mistress anymore. How am I supposed to call him? Embarrass me? Tang Yun felt wronged. She didn't think that her mother would still be concerned about the breakup fee. Tang Yun felt wronged. His reaction was also intense. He straightened his neck and said angrily, He used to like you. Why don't you try? Mrs. Tang didn't want to give up. She was an adult. She had to think more. She couldn't just give up that 500,000 yuan. What would happen to the family if she gave it up? What do I have to try? What do I have to do? I owe him so much money. We didn't even do anything. How am I supposed to ask him? How am I supposed to pay him back? Tang Yun was panicking. Why don't you ask his girlfriend to be his mistress? Didn't his girlfriend agree? Mrs. Tang said after some hesitation, I don't want to. Mom, what kind of idea is this? I'm going to die if you say anything else. How can you embarrass me like that? I'm disfigured. Why would he agree to be his mistress? How am I supposed to live? How could Tang Yun agree? Wasn't she asking her to embarrass herself? Why are you so stubborn? You're playing with Zhao Qibing, and you're playing with Lin Yi. What's wrong with being a mistress? We don't even have a house. If you don't call us, we'll just wait for death. Mrs. Tang wasn't being unreasonable. This family was at their wits' end. What should she do? Mrs. Tang wanted her daughter to seduce Zhao Qibing. Giving them 2 stores and a house wasn't a bad idea. The problem was that her daughter was disfigured. Zhao Qibing wouldn't even want her. So Mrs. Tang turned her attention to Lin Yi. She thought that Lin Yi was in a relationship with her daughter. He had to care about her feelings, right? Even if her daughter was disfigured, he couldn't just ignore it, could he? Mrs. Tang couldn't be blamed for thinking that way. She was too poor. She was afraid of being bullied. When Lin Yi was around, Mrs. Tang was in the limelight. Even the people at the food street didn't dare to bully her. It gave her a sense of satisfaction. But after Lin Yi left, her family was bullied. Their house was torn down, their man's leg was broken, and their daughter's face was disfigured. They didn't even dare to reason with them. Mrs. Tang didn't want that. She wanted to live a rich and powerful life. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.